Hey guys, tonight we're diving into something that smells worse than your gym socks, lasts longer than your last relationship, and is significantly more likely to end with your untimely death. That's right, we're talking about pirates, the real ones. Not the Johnny Depp version with witty one-liners and an oddly clean hat. No, this is you, fresh aboard a pirate ship with zero sailing experience, a questionable immune system, and dreams of buried treasure. Spoiler alert, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me what city you're watching from and what time it is right now. I always imagine someone in Boise watching this at 2:47 AM while questioning all their life choices. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You start your new career by climbing onto a rickety wooden dock in some forgotten port town, probably somewhere in the Caribbean, maybe Nassau or Port Royal. The air is thick with salt, rot and desperation. You're not quite sure what you've signed up for, only that it sounded exciting. The recruiter was missing 2 fingers, smelled like rum and low expectations, and promised you more gold than you can carry. That was 3 weeks ago. You've already pawned your boots and your stomach's eating itself. The ship you're about to board is called the Wretched Mercy, a poetic name if you're into ironic foreshadowing. It's technically a sloop, but you don't know what that means yet. You're too distracted by the fact that it looks like it's held together with seaweed, barnacles and hope. The gangplank creaks as you cross it, and someone immediately shouts at you to pull your blasted weight, even though you haven't done anything yet. Welcome aboard. Your new home is a maze of rope, wet wood and angry men. The deck is slick with ocean spray, or maybe fish guts, and the sails flap above you like old sunburnt skin. You meet the first mate who sizes you up and grunts, "Green as seaweed, this one." Then he hands you a mop and points towards something that smells like a dead animal's last wish. This is your welcome package. You've joined a crew of about 30 people, all of whom seem to be missing at least one essential body part. There's a guy called Snaps who lost his nose in a knife fight and now snorts through a reed. Someone else is just called Tooth, which is funny until you realise it's because he only has one. You, for now, are just called New Meat. Give it a week, you'll earn your nickname. Hopefully it's not Chunks or Slippy. As night falls, you try to find your sleeping spot, which turns out to be a hammock strung in the darkest, dampest corner of the ship. You lie back and immediately feel the ship rock under you. 1, 2, then a lurch that makes your stomach flip. A rat skitters by, probably headed for a more luxurious cabin. You close your eyes. You're at sea now. There's no going back. You wake to yelling, not because anything's wrong, this is just how people communicate here. Someone shoves a bowl into your hands. It contains something grey, maybe porridge, maybe punishment. You eat it because not eating it is worse. Your teeth hit something hard and you tell yourself it's a spice. It's not. By day 2, the fantasy has started to crack. There are no songs, no gallant sea battles, and no maps with red X's. There's just constant labour, ropes to coil, sails to patch, barrels to shift, and the ocean always there, an endless blue threat. You already understand that the sea doesn't care if you live or die, it probably prefers the latter. The captain is a wiry man with a voice like gravel in a bottle, and eyes that haven't blinked in a decade. He says little, but when he does, the entire crew goes quiet. He has a cutlass that is never clean and a parrot that bites. You make the mistake of laughing when the parrot says, "Rot in the bilge!" The captain doesn't. There's a code aboard the ship, not a written one, not exactly, but it's understood. Don't touch another man's belongings, don't slack when there's wind in the sails, don't cross the cook. That last one's especially important. He's known as Potbelly Jim, and he once threw a man overboard for asking about second helpings. You nod respectfully when you get your ration. Despite the backbreaking work, there's this moment at sunset, just one. The sky turns this impossible orange pink, and the ship seems to float on glass. The wind dies down, and for half a second you think maybe this was worth it. Maybe. But then the cook rings a bell and it's time to scrub the deck again, and your hands already look like prunes soaked in salt. Historically, this kind of life drew people who had nothing to lose. Sailors jumping ship, runaway slaves, prisoners, and the kind of folks who were wanted in at least 2 ports. You fit right in, eventually, or maybe you don't. Maybe you try to keep your head down and wonder how long until your first raid. That's the real prize, right? Treasure, glory, freedom? Not quite. One historical fact, pirate ships like yours often operated under surprisingly democratic conditions. Captains were elected, crewmen voted on big decisions, shares of loot were distributed according to role. Sounds great until you realise you're dead weight and would only earn about half of what the parrot gets. A fringe fact, some pirate ships had official musicians. One guy's only job was to play the fiddle, badly, while everyone else worked. You envy him, he at least doesn't have to scrub the latrine. And here's the debate. Were pirates ruthless criminals or early revolutionaries? Some historians argue they were anti-capitalist rebels, creating proto-socialist floating societies. Others think that's nonsense and that pirates were just broke criminals with better branding. Either way, you're not feeling very revolutionary as you swab the deck with salt water and tears. By the end of your first week, your back is a knot of pain, your feet are raw and your dreams are full of creaking wood and crashing waves. You've already learned a few knots and lost 3 pounds. If you make it a month, you'll either be respected or replaced. You try not to think about the fact that the last new meat hasn't been mentioned since his second night. He might have jumped, or been pushed. You don't ask, you just work. You grip the rope tighter. You stare out at the endless water, and you wonder how much worse this can get. You wake up because something wet has slapped you across the face. Not water, something softer, slimier. You sit bolt upright in your hammock, well, as upright as a swinging net lets you, and swipe the thing off. It's a fish, a whole dead fish. Some crew member is cackling as he disappears around the corner, probably proud of his culinary prank. You stare at the fish for a moment and seriously consider eating it. That's where you are, emotionally. The smell hits harder this morning, maybe because you're adjusting to life aboard the Wretched Mercy, or maybe because your nose no longer knows how to protect you. The stench is everywhere. A ripe, rotting perfume of unwashed bodies, seawater, fish guts, spoiled food, and something darker that you've stopped trying to identify. It clings to your clothes, your hair, even your dreams, and every day it gets worse because laundry, not a thing here. You don't wash your shirt, you rotate it to air out the wet side. Your sleeping space, the so-called crew's quarters, is a low-ceiling dungeon of swinging hammocks, mouldy wood, and creaking everything. You're crammed next to 20 other guys, all of whom snore like dying walruses. It's dark, humid, and hot. There's no privacy, and the only airflow is the occasional gust of wind when the hatch opens above. You spend your nights half asleep, half hoping the ship will sink and take your misery with it. Breakfast is a slice of hardtack biscuit. You'd think it's just stale bread, but no, it's a stone disguised as food. You bang it against the rail just to make a point. It chips. You bite it and feel a crunch that might not be the biscuit. Could be your tooth. You're not sure anymore. It's crawling with weevils, which you've learned to just eat around, or eat with. Depends on the day. Either way, they're protein. You wash it down with fresh water pulled from a barrel that hasn't seen soap since the last moon cycle. It tastes like warm copper and regret. You drink it anyway, because the alternative is dying of thirst. Again, your standards have plummeted. Sanitation. Let's talk about that. The bathroom is a plank with a hole at the end of the ship, directly above the sea. It's called the head. Using it involves timing the waves just right, keeping your balance, and praying no one is playing a prank that day. If you fall off, there's no rescue, no swimming, just sharks. And silence. You learn to go fast and never at night. Your first chore today is dumping the slop buckets, literal buckets of vomit, waste, and dishwater, over the side. It sloshes on your boots, you gag, no one cares. They're too busy fixing the sails, scrubbing the deck, or yelling about rope. Everything is about rope. This ship is practically a floating knot museum. As you work, you notice the crew isn't just gruff, they're perpetually angry. About the weather, the food, the wind, the captain, their own toenails. Everything. It's like living in a rage sauna. Someone's always fighting, either with fists or words. It's loud, aggressive, and exhausting. You try to stay out of it, which only makes people suspicious. Being quiet here is a red flag. You start pretending to be angry too, just to fit in. One guy, a giant named Crumb, don't ask why, throws a chicken off the ship because it looked at him wrong. You realise that meat was dinner. Now it's drifting away on the waves like a feathery martyr. The cook throws a spoon at Crumb's head. Crumb ducks. The spoon hits you. Everyone laughs. Welcome to breakfast. You retreat to the bow for a breath of air that doesn't smell like shame and bilge. The sea is deceptively calm, gently undulating, deep blue and stretching out forever. It's almost beautiful. Almost, until you notice the floating debris from the last ship they raided. A barrel, a shoe, something that might have been a hand. You look away. There's a young guy on board, not much older than you. Everyone calls him Scurvy because he never stops moving. You ask him how long he's been with the crew. He shrugs. Long enough to know the only way off this boat is a coffin or a cannonball. Then he winks and climbs the rigging like a monkey on caffeine. You already suspect he's the sanest one here. One historical fact for today. Hardtack, that joyless biscuit you choked on earlier, was a staple of seafaring life for centuries. It was baked so hard and dry it could last for years, sometimes decades. Sailors would soak it in brine or ale to soften it, or just smash it with a knife and hope for the best. Occasionally, it came with bonus insect protein. Quirky fact, pirates were terrified of ghosts, seriously. Superstitions ruled the ship. Whistling on deck was believed to summon storms. Bananas were banned for bad luck, and certain birds were considered omens of death, which is ironic since most pirates were a couple bad nights away from death anyway. Here's your scholarly debate. Did pirates really smell worse than regular sailors? Some historians argue that because pirate ships didn't carry huge livestock herds or hundreds of soldiers, they were actually cleaner than naval warships. Others say, nope, same Squalor, just with more rum and fewer rules. You've smelled yourself, you're voting for Team Swamp Musk. Later in the day you get promoted, or punished, depending on how you see it, to fish gutting duty. Someone hauls a net full of wriggling horrors onto the deck and you're handed a rusty blade and told, slice 'em open, don't nick the guts. You nick the guts. The smell is something that haunts your soul. You almost cry, but the first mate says if you throw up, you eat double weevil biscuits. You hold it in. That night you don't sleep, not because of the noise or the rocking or the threat of someone slitting your throat for your boots. No, it's because your skin won't stop itching. Lice. You've got them. Everyone does. You scratch your arms until they're red, then lay back and stare into the black void of the ship's hull. You think about the recruiter again. You wonder if he knew. Of course he knew. By now you've accepted that this is your life. Salt in your mouth, bruises on your shins, hunger as a constant background noise. No baths, no dry socks, no privacy. You keep your head down, your mouth shut and your hands moving. Because if you stop, someone might decide you're dead weight. And they don't throw the dead weight a farewell party, they just throw it. You glance around the crew quarters as you lie down. Someone is mumbling in their sleep. Someone else is sharpening a knife. You clutch your tiny bag of belongings, half a biscuit, a seashell, a lucky coin, and pull the hammock's edge up around you like a cocoon. You're not sound, not really, but you're still here. For now. You wake up to a scream, not a dramatic horror movie kind of scream, more like the kind someone makes when they realise a rat has chewed through their boot and possibly part of their foot. You roll over in your hammock, eyes bleary, ears ringing, and you think, yeah, this tracks. Another morning in paradise. It's day. You don't even know anymore. There's no calendar or on board. No sunrises to appreciate, just a grey sky and the ceaseless sound of wood groaning under stress. You've started to mark time by how many fights break out per day. Today's already off to a strong start with that scream. The crew is in a foul mood, which is impressive considering their baseline is already murderous scowl. You're beginning to recognise everyone by smell more than face. Like Button Eye, whose breath could peel paint. Or Fleabag, who you swear has made lice his pet army. You're not even sure he's aware of the difference between a beard and an infestation. Then there's Hook Tooth, not because he has a hook for a hand, but because one of his front teeth is literally made of a bent iron nail. It clinks when he bites into anything, which isn't often because of the pain. As for you, you've officially been renamed Fish Stick. Why? Because 2 nights ago, you fell asleep with a half-cleaned mackerel in your lap, and it stuck to your pants. Forever. The crew thought it was hilarious. So now, Fish Stick it is. You tried to protest, but that just made it worse. On this ship, the harder you fight a nickname, the deeper it sticks. You lean into it now. Better to put that Fish Stick than Gutless. Today, you're assigned to patch sails. Sounds easy, right? It's not. You're halfway up the mainmast, clinging to a yardarm with one hand, trying to stab a needle the size of a dagger through a ripped canvas that flaps like a dragon trying to take flight. The wind is vicious. The sun is finally back and you're sweating so hard that salt stings your eyes. The rope burns on your hands tell you you're alive, but barely. It's here, high above the deck, where you start to notice something strange. The crew is watching each other too closely. Conversations stop when someone walks by. Eyes linger too long. There's a tension rising that has nothing to do with weather or work. It's quiet. too quiet, and then it explodes. During lunch, someone accuses someone else of stealing tobacco. A punch is thrown, a knife flashes. You grab your bowl of salt pork and back slowly away from the action, pretending to be invisible. But it's too late. This isn't just a brawl, it's something deeper. That's when Scurvy pulls you aside and whispers, "Mutiny's brewing." He says it like someone might say storm's coming, but with more excitement. You blink at him. Mutiny? Like actually overthrowing the captain? Isn't that just a Pirate Tuesday? Apparently not. Turns out mutiny is a big deal, even among pirates. Sure, there's a code, and yeah, the captain can be voted out, but only if everyone agrees, and the captain of the Wretched Mercy. He's not exactly a team player. He keeps secrets, changes courses without saying why. He hasn't shared loot in months, and rumour has it he's stashing it somewhere none of the crew can reach. That's not how this life is supposed to work. You try not to look interested. Mutiny sounds like a fast ticket to shark food. But Scurvy leans in again and mutters, "Pick a side, fish stick. Sooner the better." Then he grins and skips off, because of course he does. A historical fact, pirate ships were more democratic than most governments at the time. Captains could be voted in and out, and quartermasters acted like checks on power. But once in battle, the captain had full authority. Mutiny usually happened only when the captain broke the unspoken trust, hoarding loot, endangering the crew, or worst of all, leading without purpose. You suddenly wonder if your captain has a destination at all. Fringe fact? Some pirates believed certain tattoos made them immune to drowning. Skeletons, sea monsters, even quotes like "hold fast" scrawled across their knuckles. Sailors were, and still are, deeply superstitious. You look at your own bare arms and briefly wonder if a squid tattoo could save you. There's debate about how common mutiny actually was. Some scholars argue it was rare and exaggerated in literature. Others believe it was more frequent, just not always successful. The truth? Probably somewhere in between. But you know one thing, when a crew starts whispering, it's only a matter of time before someone ends up overboard. The ship is louder today. Tense. Voices are sharper. Orders are barked with extra venom. The captain doesn't come on deck until late afternoon, and when he does, everyone goes quiet. He walks the deck like a man who already knows people want him dead. His parrot screeches obscenities at the crew, possibly more accurately than intended. He says nothing, just stares. Then he disappears below deck again. That night, Scurvy sits next to you on the deck, his feet dangling over the edge. The moonlight makes the water look like black silk. "You ever kill a man, fish stick?" he asks casually. You shake your head. He nods like that was the answer he expected. "Well, get ready." Sleep doesn't come easy. Every creak sounds like a footstep. Every whisper in the dark feels like a blade being unsheathed. You clutch your small dagger close, something someone gave you out of pity, and lie in your hammock like it's a coffin with fabric sides. The next morning it's business as usual, which is somehow worse. You spend the day gutting fish again, this time elbow to elbow with Crumb, who's in a surprisingly good mood. That's your first warning. Crumb is never in a good mood unless he's about to break something. By mid-afternoon, 2 men are gone. Just gone. Vanished. The rumour is they tried to raid the captain's cabin and were caught. No one saw it. No one talks about it. Their hammocks are empty, their gear is gone. You ask Scurvy what happened, and he just shrugs. Sometimes the sea gets hungry. You start wondering what you'd do if things went down. Would you join the mutiny? Try to stay neutral? Where could you even hide on a ship this small? Your options are limited. Behind the barrels, in the rigging, or just toss yourself overboard and hope the sharks are taking a nap. That evening you hear the first mate shouting something about discipline, about loyalty and traitors in our midst. The crew gathers, eyes flicking sideways, everyone pretending not to be involved. The tension wraps around your chest like a rope, tighter, tighter. And then the ship turns unexpectedly. No warning, no orders, just a sharp veer, sails snapping and crates sliding across the deck. You're thrown into a barrel. It smells like pickled fish and regret. Something's coming. You can feel it in the wood beneath your feet, in the way the wind suddenly feels colder. Maybe it's mutiny, maybe it's a storm, maybe it's both, but either way, you're in the middle of it, and you're still fish stick. You wake up before dawn this time, not because anyone screams or dumps a fish on your face, but because of the silence. It's too quiet. No boot stomping above your head, no snoring from Crumb's hammock, no chains clinking as barrels are dragged. Just the slow creak of the ship shifting against the sea and the faint slosh of water brushing the hull. That kind of silence is dangerous. The kind that means something's about to break. You roll out of your hammock, sore in places you didn't know existed, and pull on your ragged shirt. It's still damp, but so is everything else. Your boots squelch as you shove your feet into them, and the smell hits your nose like a slap. Fish guts, sweat, rope mould, and the sour edge of anxiety. You know that scent now. It's tension, thick and bitter, and the whole ship is drenched in it. You climb up onto the deck just as the sky begins to shift from pitch black to charcoal grey. A few others are already there, Scurry, Button-Eye and Fleabag, all pretending to look busy, but really they're just watching the captain's cabin. You do the same. No one says it out loud, but everyone's waiting to see if last night was a false alarm, or the prelude to something messy. Then the door creaks open. The captain steps out slowly, like he knows he's walking into a trap but doesn't care. His long coat flaps in the wind, and the ever-present cutlass hangs at his side, freshly cleaned. That's new. He hasn't cleaned it in weeks. His parrot is missing from his shoulder, which makes it worse. The captain, without his parrot, is like the devil showing up without his horns. Something's off. He surveys the deck. You're not sure how, but his eyes seem to land on everyone at once. You swallow hard and try to look useful. You pick up a rope. It's not attached to anything, but it makes you feel like less of a target. "Morning," the captain says, voice low and hard. "Let's get to work, lads." That's it. No speeches, no punishments, no mention of the missing crewmates or the sudden change of course. Just those 4 words. And then he turns and heads toward the wheel. That should be a relief, but somehow it's worse. You expected fire. Instead, you got ice. The rest of the day is a blur of orders barked a little too loudly, sails adjusted without explanation, and crew members moving in clusters, watching their backs. You spend your shift scraping barnacles off the hull while dangling from the side of the ship in a rope sling that feels about secure as a thread holding a cannonball. Every time a wave hits, you're nearly knocked into the water. Every time you climb back up, your arms shake a little more. Crumb works nearby, hammering wood into place where the hull's starting to rot. He hums to himself. Not a tune, just a flat, unsettling drone that seems less like music and more like something summoned from the deep. You decide not to talk to him today. At lunch, you sit next to Scurry and poke at your portion of salted fish, which is more salt than fish. "Anything yet?" you whisper. He shrugs. "Soon, maybe. Or never. Depends on how many still got spine." You nod, then realise you have no idea where you fall on that spectrum. Your hands are blistered, your stomach's eating itself, and the thought of a knife fight on a rocking ship makes your vision blur. You're not even sure if you're Team Captain or Team Chaos. You just want to live through the week. Here's your historical fact. The real pirates of the so-called Golden Age were a mixed bag of nationalities, languages, and motives. Crews were often made up of escaped slaves, disgruntled Navy sailors, former privateers, and desperate stowaways. Some couldn't even speak to each other fluently, but managed to operate as one out of necessity. Kind of like you and Scurry, only with more lice. And for your quirky fact, did you know pirates sometimes hired cooks from the ships they raided? If a captured cook made better slop than the current one, they'd toss the old guy and keep the new one. Ruthless Yelp reviews, basically. You look at Potbelly Jim, who's currently using a boot heel to stir soup, and wonder what poor sap he replaced. As for the scholarly debate, were pirates truly lawless, or did they operate under more structure than people think? There's solid evidence that pirate crews had strict codes, often written out and signed. These outlined how loot was divided, what punishments were fair, and who got compensated for injuries. Some modern scholars argue that pirates were just early labour unions with swords. Others say that's romanticised nonsense, that they were criminals, pure and simple. Either way, you're living under rules now, even if half the crew is trying to break them. Later that day, the sky darkens fast. Not just cloudy, ominous. Thick green-tinged clouds roll in from the horizon, and the wind shifts suddenly. Storm. A big one. The kind you feel in your bones before you see it. The captain barks orders like a man possessed, and for once, no one questions him. You're thrown into action, reefing sails, tying down barrels, hauling rope until your shoulders burn. Rain lashes your face before the sails are even fully furled. Lightning cracks across the sky like angry handwriting from the gods, and thunder rattles your teeth. Waves slam the ship like fists. You can't tell up from down. Salt water pours over the sides and you cling to the rail with both hands, knowing that if you fall, no one's diving in after you. This is nature's version of mutiny. No weapons, just pressure. You hear someone yell, but the wind eats their voice. Another flash of lightning shows you Fleabag's silhouette tangled in a rope, eyes wide, mouth open, then darkness again. When it's finally over, after what feels like hours but might have been 20 minutes, you're soaked to the bone, shaking and clinging to a barrel. Half the crew is sprawled across the deck, panting or unconscious. A sail has torn completely free, flapping like a ghost. The mast creaks ominously. 2 more men are gone. One might have been Crumb. The captain stands at the helm, still as a statue, rain dripping from his hat brim. For a moment, he looks satisfied, like the storm was his doing. Then he turns and disappears below deck without a word. That night, no one speaks, no jokes, no songs, not even scurry hums. You all sit in the dark, eating cold fish and thinking about how thin the line is between order and death. You lie in your hammock, hands trembling, still tasting salt. You survive the storm, barely. But something tells you the real danger is still below deck. And it's not the ocean. You can't feel your fingers. That's the first thing you notice when you wake up. Not from sleep, because you didn't really sleep, but from that restless kind of half-slumber where your body lies still, but your mind spins like a drunk parrot in a hurricane. Your fingers are numb, cold. You look down and see your hands are raw and red, cracked along the knuckles. Rope burn, salt rash, probably early frostbite if you're being dramatic, which at this point you are entitled to be. The storm left everything soaked. Your clothes are wet. The floorboards are wet. Your boots squish when you move. Even the air feels wet, like you're breathing through a sponge. It's the kind of damp that seeps into your bones and squats there uninvited. You could light a fire, if fires were allowed, but they aren't, because this is a ship, on the ocean. Surrounded by flammable things like gunpowder and dreams, you crawl out of your hammock and into the mess of bodies. Some are still asleep, some just staring into the middle distance like they saw something in the storm that won't let go. No one's joking today. Button-Eye lost his knife and is muttering about it like it was a pet. Fleabag has a swollen lip and refuses to talk. Even Scurvy, the human hummingbird, is quiet, sitting cross-legged with his back to the wall, flicking a playing card back and forth across his fingers. It's the Queen of Spades. She's missing one eye. You climb up onto the deck. The sky is blue now, blindingly so, as if the storm never happened. The sun is hot and cruel, turning the wet boards into steam traps. The ship groans beneath you like it's hung over, creaking and snapping as the crew lurches back into motion. There's damage everywhere, sails torn, ropes frayed, the rigging sagging like it wants to retire. The first mate is barking orders, voice hoarse from yelling through the wind. He limps now, favouring one leg but doesn't mention it. Pirates don't talk about pain unless it's funny or someone else's. You pretend not to notice the blood on his boot. You're sent to bail out the lower deck, which feels like punishment but is actually a necessity. The hold is half flooded with stormwater, knee-deep and murky. It sloshes around barrels and crates, swirling with unidentifiable bits of food, oil, and you really hope that's not a tooth. The smell down here is 10 times worse, like death took a nap in a swamp and left its socks behind. You work alongside a boy barely 15, goes by Pickle, and you don't ask why. He hands you a tin bucket and points toward the corner where the water is deepest. You bail in silence, the two of you moving in sync, bucket after bucket up the stairs, dumped overboard, again and again. No one thanks you, but at least it's mindless, and strangely warm. You almost forget you're a likely candidate for spontaneous mutiny murder. Historical fact time, Scurvy. The pirate's greatest enemy, and you're probably halfway there already. It wasn't just bleeding gums, it meant your teeth could literally fall out. Your legs would swell, your skin bruised if someone looked at it funny. Scurvy could turn you into a human sack of pudding. Caused by a lack of vitamin C, and since pirates didn't exactly have an unlimited supply of citrus, it was everywhere. You think of your diet, hardtack, salt meat, and possibly bad soup, and realise you're probably days from dissolving like wet bread. Fringe fact, some pirates tried to brew beer made from seawater and tree bark as a remedy. Yes, you heard that right. Tree bark beer. It was bitter, disgusting, and didn't really work. But hey, when your other option is slowly melting into your own hammock, you get creative. There's a debate even today over whether scurvy was actually as widespread among pirates as we're told. Some argue pirates fared better than navy crews because they stopped at tropical islands more often and raided fresh provisions. Others say it didn't matter. Once you were out at sea long enough, everyone was basically a walking skeleton with a knife. You glance down at your own arms. You're not skeletal yet, but you are blotchy and your gums have started to feel soft. You pretend that's normal. By midday, things return to normal, which on this ship just means tense with extra yelling. Potbelly Jim serves up a thick stew that might contain actual meat, but no one asks questions. You get your bowl and sit beside Scurry, who's finally speaking again. He's hoarding fruit, Scurry mutters, stabbing at something unidentifiable in his soup. Captain's got oranges stashed below. Real ones. I saw 'em. You nearly choke on your stew. You're serious? Scurry nods. That's why the boys are angry. Not the treasure, not the loot, it's the fruit. Man sitting on gold and we're bleeding out of our teeth. You glance around. Other crew members are watching. Not you, him, Scurry, but also, maybe, you. You're his friend now, whether you like it or not. The sun beats down harder, and the deck turns into a frying pan. You're ordered to help with the sails again, and by the time the workday ends, you're sunburned, blistered, and about 2 more Weevil biscuits away from trying to stab the ocean just for spite. That night you lie in your hammock and feel your gums pulse in time with your heartbeat. You dream of fruit. Real fruit. Juicy, sweet, cool against your teeth. You dream of slicing open a mango the size of your head, watching the juice run down your hands, devouring it like it's sacred. And then you wake up with something crawling on your face. A cockroach. You slap it, miss, and fall out of your hammock with a thud. Morning again. You climb to the deck, eyes blurry, mouth dry. The sun is rising. The air is hot. The ship groans beneath your feet, and someone is shouting. You look up. The captain's parrot is back, and it's flying in circles, squawking something you can't quite make out. But it sounds an awful lot like, "Traitor! Traitor! Traitor!" You freeze. Scurry looks at you. Everyone looks at the parrot. Then they look at the captain's cabin, and you know with complete clarity that this day will not end quietly. By now, you've learned something important. On a pirate ship, silence can mean danger, but noise, especially unexpected noise, is always worse. That parrot screeching "traitor" on a loop while flying victory laps above the mainmast? That's noise. And it isn't the funny kind. It's the kind that has people pausing mid-chew, mid-step, mid-brawl to stare upward with the expressions that could curdle milk. You don't breathe, you don't blink, you just stand there frozen like a salted fish. Scurry is beside you, motionless, his face unreadable for once. All around, the crew is scattered across the deck, some holding ropes, some holding weapons, all suddenly holding their breath. The bird continues its chant, "Traitor, traitor," like it's trying to win an award for most incriminating animal. You kind of want to shoot it, or teach it a new word, preferably pancakes. And then the door creaks open again. The captain steps onto the deck, his face calm, unreadable, almost amused. He raises a single finger, and the parrot obediently lands on his shoulder, puffing up like a peacock who just dropped a mic. The captain strokes its feathers and looks out over the crew. "No one likes a traitor," he says softly, "but I've always found them useful, for a time." A ripple goes through the crowd. You glance at Scurry. He gives the tiniest shake of his head. Don't speak, don't move. The unspoken rules of mutiny are clear. Deny everything, always be the last to act, and never ever let the parrot see your face. The captain's eyes sweep the deck, but they don't linger. He doesn't need to accuse anyone. He just turns and walks back inside, leaving the parrot behind, who perches on the mast now, eyeing everyone like a nosy landlord. The rest of the day is drenched in paranoia. Work slows. Conversations die mid-sentence. You get assigned to the galley, scrubbing pots while Potbelly Jim sharpens knives with extra flourish and whistles a tune that sounds vaguely like a funeral march. You catch him watching you out of the corner of his eye, and when you glance back, he winks. You drop the pot. He doesn't flinch. Lunch is cold beans and something crunchy you pretend is bread. Button Eye doesn't show up. No one mentions it. Fleabag has a black eye now and also doesn't explain. Crumb is back, live and limping, and more aggressive than ever. He punches a barrel in half just to prove a point. The point remains unclear. You feel like you're in the middle of a chess game where no one knows the rules, and everyone thinks you're the pawn, or worse, The first sacrifice. Scurvy tries to reassure you. They'll wait till the next port, he whispers. Nobody starts mutiny at sea, too risky. But you've seen the looks, you've heard the whispers. Someone wants the captain gone, and someone else is about to get blamed. Let's drop a historical fact here, just to give your brain a break. Real mutinies were rare, but when they happened, they were bloody. The most infamous pirate mutiny was likely that of Captain William Kidd, whose crew turned on him when he refused to plunder a friendly ship. That decision ruined his career and ended with him hanging in chains over the River Thames. Let that sink in. He was too moral for pirates, and it got him executed. Kind of makes your current I just work here approach seem wise. Fringe fact? Some pirate captains were so paranoid about mutiny, they'd sleep in hammocks slung high above the crew, or even in locked cabins surrounded by armed guards. Others would sleep with one eye open and a pistol in each hand. A few just never slept. You're starting to understand why. Now, here's the debate. What actually triggered most pirate mutinies? Historians argue it wasn't usually greed or glory, it was boredom, hunger, bad leadership, or broken promises. That fruit stash rumour? A classic spark. Nothing sets pirates off faster than unequal rations or hoarded citrus. You're already craving an orange like it's forbidden treasure. If Scurvy's right and the captain is sitting on a crate of oranges, he may as well be sitting on a lit fuse. By dusk, things go from tense to dangerous. There's a commotion near the bow, a loud crash, a yell, the unmistakable sound of metal hitting bone. You rush over with the others, pushing through the crowd just in time to see a body slumped on the deck. It's Tooth. His single remaining tooth glints in the fading light, but his eyes are closed, and his head split open like a melon. Next to him, Crumb stands with a broken oar in his hands, panting heavily. "He stole from my pack," Crumb says, voice flat. No one argues, no one moves. Tooth is dragged unceremoniously to the side of the ship and dropped overboard like garbage. There's no ceremony, no words, just a slash. The sea takes him without complaint. You return to your hammock that night feeling sick. The crew has crossed some invisible line and you can feel it. Murder is casual now. Silence is fear. You lie in your swinging bed and stare at the wooden beams above your head. Thinking of oranges and cutlasses and what Scurvy said. Soon, maybe, or never. You wonder which it will be. Just as you start to drift off, a hand grabs your shoulder. You nearly scream, but it's Scurvy. His face is inches from yours, eyes wide, whispering fast. Tomorrow night. It's happening. Your mouth goes dry. What is? He doesn't answer, just slides a knife into your hand, small, sharp, not yours, and slips away into the dark. You stare at the blade. You're not ready for this. But ready or not, you've been chosen, and you have no idea if that's a good thing. You don't sleep that night, not even for a moment. You lie in your hammock with the knife Scurvy gave you hidden under your shirt, pulse racing like a war drum in your ears, watching the shadows sway with the ship. Every creak, every footstep above. Every grunt from a sleeping crewmate sounds like it might be the moment. The beginning of whatever tomorrow night means. You count the boards above your head, trace the cracks in the hull beside you, and try not to imagine what blood smells like when it mixes with salt water and sweat. By morning, you've achieved a new level of exhaustion, one that transcends tiredness and enters the realm of spiritual decay. You're pale, twitchy, and cold despite the rising heat. The other crew members seem more animated than usual. Not cheerful exactly, but there's a charge in the air, like lightning getting ready to punch the sky, and everyone's moving fast, talking low. They've either been given orders or have made up their own minds. Either way, something is in motion, and you're right in the middle of it. The captain appears on deck just after sunrise. He's still wearing that long coat, even in the heat, like he's daring the weather to mess with him. His hat is tilted low, casting a shadow over his eyes, and the parrot is perched on his shoulder again, quiet for once. That silence from the bird? It's somehow more terrifying than its usual shrieking. You get the feeling it knows too much. The day unfolds like a bad dream. You're assigned to patch ropes in the rigging, busy work. It keeps you away from the main deck, but gives you a full view of everything happening below. You see Scurvy disappear into the hold twice, each time carrying something wrapped in cloth. You see Fleabag and Crumb whispering near the water barrels, glancing around like raccoons caught robbing a bakery. The first mate's nowhere to be seen, which is a red flag big enough to wrap a battleship. You start to piece it together. So, this isn't a mutiny planned for months. It's not clean or calculated. This is a powder keg lit by a rumour, sparked by hunger and fear, and shoved toward a man who may or may not be hoarding the last oranges left on Earth. It's going to be messy, stupid, and probably a complete disaster. Historical fact to keep your sanity intact. Pirate battles were not elegant affairs. Forget the choreographed sword fights from the movies. Real skirmishes were brutal, close quarters, and usually over in minutes. Blunderbusses, pistols, cutlasses, whatever you had, you used it. Half the injuries came from accidents. If you didn't lose an eye or a finger, you were lucky. Fringe fact, pirates rarely said, "Arr!" That whole thing came from a 1950s movie and stuck like gum on a boot. Real pirates had accents from all over the world. West Country England, Ireland, Africa, Spain, the Caribbean, and swore like it was an Olympic sport. The most common phrase, hold fast, which meant don't let go, whether it was the rigging or your grip on life. And here's a debate that fits your current situation. Did pirate captains rule through fear or charisma? Some historians argue that the best captains, like Bartholomew Roberts or Henry Morgan, had the loyalty of their crews because they shared wealth and respected the code. Others think it was all about intimidation. Control the gold, control the crew. Looking at your own captain, you'd say it's 60-40 fear to charisma ratio. He hasn't smiled in days, and when he does, it's never at anyone living. By sunset, the ship's mood has curdled. You're back on the deck now, coiling ropes with trembling hands, trying not to draw attention. Dinner is late. There's no bell, no announcement, just the slow trickle of men heading toward the galley, hesitant, like it might be poison tonight. You follow, because not showing up would be more suspicious. Inside, the tension is so thick you could carve it. Potbelly Jim stands behind the table, ladling out stew like he's building bombs. No one talks, no one sits. They just eat, quickly and quietly, casting glances like cards. The stew tastes like boiled leather and overcooked secrets. You choke it down anyway. Scurry brushes past you and murmurs, "Wait for the storm bell." You blink. What storm bell? But he's already gone. You finish your bowl and return to your hammock, knife still percus flat beneath your shirt. The sun vanishes, and the moon rises like an eye watching everything from above. The sea is calm, unnaturally so, like it's waiting to. You lie in the dark, surrounded by sleeping bodies and creaking wood, heart pounding. Then it happens. A single clang echoes through the hull, metal on metal. You've heard it before, the bell used to signal an approaching squall, but there's no wind tonight. No lightning. Just that sound. Clang. You sit up, clang. Hammock sway as others stir, some sit up, alert, some pretend to stay asleep. You clutch your knife and slip off the hammock, feet stent on the wooden floor. Then yelling. Footsteps, fast, heavy, coming from the deck above. The entire crew erupts like a hive kicked open, shouts of "Now!" and "Get him!" and one very loud, "Oh God, I'm bleeding!" You rush up with the others, half drawn into the chaos, half trying not to die. On deck, it's madness. Someone's swinging a rope like a whip. Crumb is charging forward, roaring like a bull. Scurry vaults the rail and disappears into the captain's quarters, blade in hand. You hesitate. One step away from joining the fray, one step from hiding under a barrel and pretending to be unconscious. That's when the captain appears. Not from his cabin, but from the crow's nest. He drops down the rigging like a spider descending on its prey, coat fluttering, pistol in each hand, and that terrible knowing grin stretched across his face. "Mutiny," he says. "At last!" And then the shots begin. Gunfire rips through the night. Screams echo across the deck. Someone tackles someone else. You duck as a bottle smashes inches from your head. You see Potbelly Jim wielding a soup ladle like a club. The parrot flies overhead, shrieking gibberish. Someone throws up, someone else throws a cannonball. You lock eyes with Scurry as he emerges from the cabin, blood on his face, eyes wild. He holds up a crate, the size of a treasure chest, lid split open. Oranges, whole, unrotted, glorious. You almost laugh. Then something explodes. You're thrown backward. Pain blooms across your shoulder. You hit the deck hard, vision blurry, and when you blink back into focus, the crate is gone. Scurry is gone, and so are the oranges. You come to with your cheek pressed against wet wood and the distinct taste of blood and gunpowder in your mouth. The world tilts and spins. Whether it's the ship or your brain, you're not entirely sure. There's a ringing in your ears, dull and persistent, like a bell underwater. You blink hard once, twice, and the stars above you smear like paint in water. The air reeks of smoke, sweat, citrus, and violence. You know what that means. The crate of oranges didn't make it. You try to sit up, groaning as pain blooms in your shoulder and spreads across your back like a brush fire. You're not dead. Yet. That's your first thought. Your second is, where is everyone? The deck is littered with bodies. Some moving, some very much not. A torn sail flaps above like a wounded bird and barrels have rolled loose, some bobbing in the water just off the stern. Smoke curls up from a smouldering crate near the helm. The parrot is gone. The chaos has passed, but the wreckage is stunning. It's not a ship anymore. It's a crime scene. You stumble to your feet and nearly slip on what you hope is spilled stew and not someone's pancreas. You scan the faces, searching for Scurvy. No sign of him. Crumb is slumped against the mast, breathing heavily, cradling what's left of his hand. Fleabag is sitting cross-legged near the bow, staring blankly at a grapefruit rind, eyes wide like he's communing with a higher power. The captain? He's not on the deck. That fact alone makes your spine crawl. He was there when the mutiny started, smiling, grinning like he knew every move in advance. You saw him drop into the fight like a knife through silk. But now, nothing. No coat, no boots, no parrot. Either he's dead, hiding, or worse, he won. You stagger toward the captain's cabin, every step uncertain. The door is hanging off its hinges, and the inside is trashed. The desk is overturned, maps torn and scattered like confetti, drawers pried open. The crate that once held the mythical oranges sits in the corner, split open and empty. One orange, a single perfect specimen, lies untouched under the cot. You stare at it for a long moment, then leave it there. You don't know what kind of curse is riding that thing now. Behind you, footsteps. You spin, raising your knife with your good arm, but it's just Scurvy, bleeding from the forehead and grinning like a lunatic. "Well," he says, panting, "that could have gone smoother." You gape at him. "Where's the captain?" Scurvy shrugs. "Slipped away. Rat off a sinking ship." He glances at the sky. "Figuratively, you don't feel better. At all. That's the thing about mutiny. No one talks about what happens after. It's easy to chant and stab and swing an oar when the target's clear. But when the smoke clears and the captain's gone, when bodies lie still and the oranges have exploded, who's in charge? Apparently, that's a question for tomorrow. Here's a fun historical fact to chew on while you stumble through the blood and broken furniture. The promise of treasure on pirate ships was mostly a myth. Yes, they stole things, but it wasn't always gold and jewels. More often it was food, medicine, clothes, tools, anything useful. If they did find coins, it was usually from Spanish ships, and even then most of it got spent on booze and brothels at the next port. The idea of buried treasure is largely fiction, popularised centuries later. Your fringe fact? Some pirate crews had no interest in treasure at all. They just wanted new boots, seriously. If a merchant ship had a good supply of leather or canvas, that was reason enough to attack. There's an actual record of a crew letting an entire vessel go because they wore better shoes than we. Pirates. Stylish and stabby. Debate of the day. Was the idea of treasure even what kept pirates motivated? Some scholars think the real lure was freedom. No masters, no laws, no taxes. Others believe it was desperation. For many, piracy was the last stop before death. You'd agree. You weren't chasing gold when you signed up. You were running from something. You just didn't expect to be running for this long. By nightfall, the remaining crew drags the wounded below deck and attempts to clean up. You get roped into sweeping broken glass and mopping blood while Scurvy tries to rehang the mainsail. No one talks about who's in charge now. There's no vote, no ceremony. It's just quiet. The kind of quiet that follows disaster, not peace. Crumb limps by and mutters, "He'll come back, you'll see." You try not to shiver. He's talking about the captain, son. Or maybe the parrot, you don't ask. Potbelly Jim hasn't emerged from the galley since the explosion. You hear him humming occasionally, but no food is served. The crew grumbles, but no one pushes him. After tonight, even Jim seems dangerous. As for you, you're back in your hammock by midnight, knife still under your shirt, listening to the broken ship rock gently in the waves. You feel the bruises blossoming across your ribs, your shoulder throbbing in time with the creaks of the hull. Someone is crying 2 hammocks over. Someone else is singing to themselves. It's eerie, unsettling, human. You don't sleep, but you close your eyes and dream. Not of treasure, not of battle, but of oranges. Dozens of them, whole and glowing, rolling across the deck as the sun rises, their peels bursting with a juice that smells like salvation. You wake up chewing your pillow. It tastes like rope and mildew, as usual. You spit. The morning comes, too bright, too still, the sea flat as glass. And on the horizon, another ship. A big one. Black sails, no flag, no warning. Just the kind of arrival that makes your gut drop and your teeth clench. You're not ready. No one is. But this pirate life doesn't care. The moment someone spots the ship, the air on deck turns from foggy fatigue to panic in the space of a single shouted word. Sails! Everyone scrambles like rats on a tipping barrel. You lurch upright, nearly falling out of your hammock again, your new signature move apparently, and rush up to the deck with your shirt half buttoned and your knife still tucked into your waistband. There's no time to wash your face, fix your hair, or find out who's in charge. All that matters now is the shape growing larger on the horizon. It's a big ship, bigger than yours, much. Where the Wretched Mercy is scrappy and weather-beaten, this vessel looks like it could eat you whole and floss with your rigging. 3 masts, thick black sails and hull lines that curve like the edge of a sword. No flag yet. That's the part that makes your stomach twist. Pirates fly flags for intimidation, yes, but they also fly flags to say what kind of death they're offering. Skull and crossbones? Quick and merciful if you surrender. A red flag, no survivors. A blank mast, that's worse. That means you don't know who they are, what they want, or how badly they want it. You join the rest of the crew at the rail, squinting into the morning sun. You hear murmurs. Is it the Navy? Smugglers? The captain's back? Ghost ship. That last one comes from Fleabag, who is, once again, licking a grapefruit rind like it contains prophecy. Scurvy appears beside you, looking like he hasn't slept in a week. His eye is swelling shut, but he still manages to grin. If we're lucky, it's just someone who wants our rum. If we're unlucky, he trails off. We die, you offer. He shrugs. Or worse. Could be work. You don't ask what worse than dying means anymore. With no captain and half the crew still recovering from the failed mutiny, no one knows who to look to for orders. The first mate, who's been hiding since the brawl, finally limps up onto the deck and waves a cutlass in the air like he's leading a parade no one wants to be in. "Man the cannons!" he bellows, voice cracking on the last syllable. "We defend the ship." Defend what exactly? There's no treasure, no map, no glorious prize. You're floating in a half-busted bucket with 3 working sails and fewer working knees. But still, you jump into motion like everyone else. Because pirates don't argue in moments like this. They panic together. You're sent below to prep the powder. It's hot, cramped, and reeks of sulphur and fear. You pass crates of cannonballs, buckets of sand, and a rat that looks like it owns the place. It nods at you. Probably. You've never fired a cannon before. Most pirates haven't. Contrary to legend, cannon combat wasn't glamorous. It was loud, dangerous, and wildly inaccurate. Ships often tried to avoid it altogether in favour of boarding and close combat. Why? Because cannonballs don't care who you're aiming at. They just rip through everything. Wood, flesh, hope. Your historical fact. Pirate ships often carried small cannons, not the massive ones you see in movies. They were called swivel guns or pitoreros, and fired grape shot, basically a bunch of tiny metal balls meant to shred sails and people alike. Brutal, up close, and far from precise. Fringe fact. Pirates sometimes filled their cannons with broken glass, nails, or even Tiburon rocks if they ran low on ammo. The idea was simple: anything sharp becomes deadly at high speed. One pirate crew reportedly used coconuts. It didn't work, but you admire the effort. And the debate for today? Do pirates actually want to fight? Many historians believe that, when possible, pirates preferred intimidation over battle. They'd show up, fly the Jolly Roger, and hope the enemy surrendered without bloodshed. Why? Because injured pirates meant lost manpower, and there's no HR department on a pirate ship. Still, sometimes the bluff didn't work. Today, the bluff definitely doesn't work. The black-sailed ship keeps coming. No turn, no signal, just steady, terrifying momentum. Whoever they are, they've chosen you. The first cannon fires before you're even ready. The sound is deafening, like the earth tearing open, followed a beat later by a track that rattles your bones. It's a warning shot, but a very clear one. Get ready or get wrecked. Panic explodes like a dropped powder keg. You're shoved into position beside a cannon that looks older than your grandmother's ghost. Someone hands you a torch, another hands you a stick with a sponge on the end. No instructions, just looks. You sponge the barrel, load the powder, shove in the cannonball, tamp it down and then wait. Your hands are trembling. You can hear your heartbeat in your teeth. Above deck, the crew is yelling. The sails are whipping in the wind, and that other ship is close enough now that you can see the figures on its deck. Black coats, red sashes, weapons gleaming in the sun. The first mate screams, "Fire!" And you do. It's awful. The cannon bucks like a mule with a grudge. The noise tears through your skull and smoke fills the chamber instantly. You're deaf, blind, and covered in grime. But when it clears, someone cheers. You hit something, probably not anything important, but still, small victories. Then the enemy fires back. The first ball smashes through the deck above your head, wood splintering like dry bones. The second hits near the bow, and you feel the ship tilt. Water rushes in somewhere. You're suddenly ankle deep in seawater. Your bladder empties a little. You pretend it's sweat. You scramble topside, tripping over wounded crewmates and burning rope just in time to see the enemy vessel ram you. It's not a soft bump. It's a full-on ship-smashing, plank-snapping collision that sends bodies flying and the mast shaking. You grab a rope just before you're tossed overboard. They board immediately. Figures leap onto your deck with ropes and hooks, swords drawn. Not just men, women too. Masked, silent eyes like storm clouds. These aren't your average pirates. These are the kind that raid, burn and disappear. The kind with rules you don't want to learn. A tall figure steps forward, their coat trimmed in silver, long sabre gleaming. They say nothing. Just look around at your sorry, bleeding, half-dead crew and raise a hand. Strip the ship, take what's useful, burn the rest. Your heart sinks. This is not a robbery. It's an erasure. You try to run. You make it 3 steps before something hard hits the back of your head. The world tilts again, darkens. Before you pass out, you hear someone whisper, "Welcome to the real pirate life, fish stick." You don't know if it's scurry. You don't even know if it's real, but you believe them. You wake up to the smell of burning wood and the soft hiss of water against flame. Smoke curls into your nose, dry and bitter, dragging you out of the blackness like a rope around your ribs. Your head feels split in two. Your tongue is dry as driftwood, and every part of your body aches in a slightly different dialect of pain. You try to sit up, you regret it instantly. The world spins sideways, and your stomach flips like a gut-shot seal. You're lying on the deck, or at least what's left of it. Splinters poke through your shirt, and around you is chaos, reduced to coals. One mast has snapped entirely and now leans drunkenly across the ship like it's trying to escape. Smoke still rises from the galley. Half the railings are gone. What remains of the crew limps through wreckage, bloody, scorched, barely walking. You catch the unmistakable whiff of something worse. Burnt flesh. You close your mouth, fast. The boarding party is gone. The black-sailed ship is a dot on the horizon, disappearing as fast as it arrived, leaving behind only destruction and confusion. Not even a message. Not even a curse. Just silence. You roll to your knees, head pounding, and take stock. Your knife is gone. Your boots are still on. Though one has a fresh rip across the side, you're somehow alive, which is a mixed blessing at this point. Scurvy appears beside you like a badly bandaged ghost, dragging a half-burnt crate of supplies. "They didn't take everything," he says, then pauses to spit blood. "Just most of it." "Any food?" you croak. He shakes his head. "Just rope and a jar of pickles." You nod like that's good news. It's not, but nodding feels like something. By noon, the survivors gather what's left. 8 of you, out of 30-something. Everyone else, dead, missing, or floating somewhere between legend and fish food. Crumb's gone, Fleabag 2, Potbelly Jim's galley is nothing but char. You find what might have been his ladle melted to a beam. You don't ask questions, you just keep moving. Here's your historical fact for the day. Pirate ships were often destroyed after a battle, if the victors saw no use for them. If the hull was damaged, the cargo minimal, and the crew too weak to resist, they'd torch it and move on. Salvaging wasn't worth the effort. In other words, your ship has just been declared worthless by professionals. Fringe fact, pirates believed fire was one of the worst ways to die, worse than hanging, worse than dibly drowning. Many ships kept barrels of sand just to fight on board fires. It wasn't for heroics, it was survival. Fire at sea spreads fast, eats everything and offers no escape. If the smoke doesn't kill you, the panic does. Scholarly debate time. Were pirate crews really close-knit families? Or was that a fantasy sold by storytellers? Some records show real loyalty among crewmates, men saving each other, even splitting loot with widows, but others suggest it was survival and nothing more. When things got bad, it was every man for himself. You look around at your battered little band of survivors and think, maybe it was both. Scurvy organises a triage of sorts. You're put in charge of cleaning wounds, which is hilarious because you're barely standing. You tear strips from sails and soak them in whatever's left of the rum stores to use as antiseptic. Everyone screams when it touches their skin, and you're tempted to scream with them. No captain, someone mutters. No ship, no flag. You glance up at the mast, or what's left of it. The flag, if there was one, burned off during the raid. Now it's just a charred stick, a black joke, a tombstone. The day bleeds into night. You don't eat. No one does. Scurvy finds a single surviving rat and debates killing it for stew. You tell him not to. The rat might be your new captain. That night you sleep on the open deck under a sky smeared with ash. No hammock, no shelter, just stars above and fire scars below. You dream of oranges again, but this time they're rotted, full of worms. You wake up gagging and slap something crawling across your face, another cockroach. They always survive. The next morning brings an eerie stillness. The sea is calm again, taunting you with peace after carnage. Scurvy and the others are whispering clustered near the broken wheel. You approach, wary. The mood is not hopeful. "We can't stay here," Scurvy says bluntly. "Ship's barely floating, food's gone. We'll drift until we starve or sink." Someone suggests rowing. Another scoffs. There aren't enough oars. Someone else suggests surrendering to the first ship you see. That earns a laugh, a bitter, broken one. Then Scurvy points east. There's an island, not far, saw it on a chart once. Uninhabited. Might have fresh water. Might have cannibals, someone grumbles. Might have fruit, Scurvy replies. The vote is quick and silent. No one wants to float in this husk of a ship any longer. It takes all day to lash together makeshift sails from torn canvas and patch holes with leftover tar. You bail water until your hands blister again. You're back in survival mode, lower than pirate, lower than stowaway. You are now driftwood with ambitions. That night, you share the last of the pickles. There are 5. You eat yours slowly, pretending it's a feast. The crunch echoes in the quiet like a cannon shot. As the stars come out, someone begins humming a tune. You don't recognize it, but it's soft, almost gentle. A lullaby from nowhere. You lean back against the mast stump and let your eyes close just for a moment. Then someone calls out from the crow's nest stump. "Land!" You sit up so fast your ribs protest. Far ahead, barely visible against the rising moon, is a dark shape, jagged and still. An island, real, not imagined. You've survived mutiny, a sea battle, a boarding raid, and the slow death of your ship. Now you're aiming for land, which given your luck so far might actually be worse. You reach the island on a piece of ship that should not be floating. The remnants of the Wretched Mercy, or what's left of her, groan with every crest and dip of the sea, like even the boards are trying to give up. You sit near the bow, clutching the rigging with white knuckles, squinting against the sunrise as the jagged silhouette of the island comes into sharper view. It's not the paradise you'd hoped for. No soft beaches, no lazy palm trees swaying in the breeze. It's all rocks, cliffs, and dense, dark jungle. The kind of place that makes you think something in there definitely wants to eat me. Scurvy stands beside you, silent. For once, there's no wisecrack, no playful nudge. He just stares, like the island is challenging him to blink first. Behind you, the survivors shuffle about, prepping the longboat, the only one that didn't burn, loading it with what little gear remains, a rusty hatchet, some sailcloth, 2 empty barrels, and a bottle of rum with an inch of brown liquid sloshing at the bottom. It's not ideal, but it's not the ocean either. You climb into the boat and row, your arms screaming in protest. The surf isn't friendly. It throws you around like a toy, slamming the boat sideways before grudgingly allowing you to scrape up against black volcanic rock. You leap out, boots sinking into the wet sand, and immediately kiss the ground. Not on purpose. You trip, but the sentiment's the same. The others pull the boat up onto the shore, and for the first time in days, the entire crew, what's left of it, sets foot on something that doesn't sway or creak or smell like impending doom. It's a weird moment. No one says anything. You just stand there, dripping, filthy olive. Then, of course, the bugs arrive. They come out of the trees like a vengeful cloud. Mosquitoes, gnats, beetles the size of your thumb, all of them hungry. You slap, swat, curse, and immediately regret landing here. At sea you are dying slowly. Here you might die quickly, possibly via insect ambush. Scurry leads the way inland, machete in hand. The jungle is dense, wet and loud. Everything drips. Every leaf is suspicious. Vines wrap around your legs like they're testing your worth. Birds scream overhead. Something growls in the underbrush. It might be a wild pig or a demon. Hard to say. You reach a clearing by midday. There's a small stream, clear fresh water. Scurry drops to his knees and drinks like a man possessed. You do the same, pausing only briefly to worry whether there are parasites. You decide not to care. You're so thirsty you'd drink from a barrel labelled death water if it came with a splash of lemon. You set up camp with sailcloth and branches, the others scatter, searching for food. Scurry disappears into the jungle with the hatchet. You try to nap but can't. Every sound makes your skin twitch. You stare up at the swaying canopy and wonder what the captain would do in this situation. Then you remember he abandoned you. Probably for a better island. Or a boat made of oranges. You're starting to suspect you'll never see him again. And you're not sure how you feel about that. Here's your historical fact for today. Pirates didn't just raid ships, they raided towns too. Many small settlements along the Caribbean and African coasts were attacked by pirate crews desperate for food, supplies and women. These raids were fast and brutal, sometimes more profitable than a week at sea. But they also made pirates hunted even more viciously by the empires they robbed. Fringe fact, some islands became unofficial pirate colonies. The most famous, Libertalia, a supposed utopia founded by pirates who rejected kings and slavery. No money, no masters, just shared goods and democratic rule. Most historians agree it probably didn't exist, but enough sailors believed in it that they went searching. You wonder if this island could be your Libertalia. Then something bites your leg and you immediately reconsider. And here's the debate. Were islands a blessing or a trap for pirates? Some see them as sanctuaries, places to repair ships, bury treasure, or wait out the navy. Others say islands were often the beginning of the end, limited resources, hostile natives, disease and no escape. You're currently leaning towards entrap, based on how many bites you've sustained in an hour. Scurry returns at dusk with a rabbit skewered on a stick. You're so hungry you don't even question where he found it or how. The meat is tough but edible. You pass the bottle of rum around like communion. Everyone gets one sip. That's all that's left. You eat in silence, staring into the tiny fire someone started with wet bark and a miracle. The crew is a different kind of quiet now. Not scared, not angry, just hollow. The shock has worn off. The mutiny, the attack, the burning ship, there's a blank sea. It's all behind you now. The question isn't what happened. It's what now. You curl up under the sailcloth tent and try to sleep, but the island is very much awake. The jungle buzzes and clicks, a chorus of unseen creatures. Something hoots from a tree, something else screeches back. You lie there in the dark, wondering if this is your life now, torn sails for a roof, wet dirt for a bed, and a knife that might be more useful as a spoon. Sometime after midnight a storm rolls in, no warning, just wind and rain like the sky's personal tantrum. Your tent collapses, you huddle under a soggy sail and curse every decision you've made in the last month. You miss your hammock, you miss bad soup, you even miss the parrot. And when the thunder cracks, you swear you hear someone laughing. Not from your camp, from the trees, far off, too loud to be real, too close to be imagined. You tell yourself it's nothing, but in your gut you know, this island isn't empty. Morning comes late and sluggish, like even the sun had second thoughts about showing up to this disaster. The storm has passed, but it left a mess in its wake. Your camp looks like it lost a fight with an angry octopus. Everything is soaked. The fire pit's just a mud bowl, the sailcloth is tangled in a tree, and one of the empty barrels rolled halfway into the stream like it's trying to float back to civilization. You peel yourself off the ground, soaked to the bone and itchy in places you didn't know could itch. Scurry is already up, crouched near the stream, poking at something with a stick. You trudge over, half awake, and peer down. It's a footprint. Not yours, not his, bigger, barefoot, human. You look up at him. He doesn't say anything, just raises an eyebrow like, well, this just got more fun. You want to scream, or laugh, or go back to bed, except you don't have a bed, you have wet leaves and a probable concussion. Word spreads fast. By noon the entire camp is on edge. People keep looking over their shoulders like the trees are watching them. You don't blame them. The jungle feels different now, less like wilderness, more like a trap someone forgot to spring. Scurvy organises a patrol. "We need to know who we're sharing this patch of hell with," he says, strapping on his belt like it's going to help against anything with real teeth. You get volunteered for the scouting party, mostly because you still have both legs and look moderately alert. It's not exactly an honour. You move through the jungle in a tight group, swatting vines, stepping over mossy rocks, trying not to think about all the stories you've heard about islands like this. You know, the ones where no one comes back, or if they do, they've gone full feral and only communicate in bird sounds. You see more footprints, some small, some larger, all barefoot. At one point, you find a clearing with a crude wooden structure, a lean-to made from sticks and palm fronds. Inside is a fire pit, cold but clearly used. Bones litter the area. Some animal, you think, at least you hope. One of them has been split down the centre. That's not comforting. There's also a necklace made from shells and teeth, hanging from a tree branch like a warning sign. You stare at it. None of the teeth look human, but honestly, you're not an epir. Scurvy pokes it with a stick. "Friendly neighbours," he mutters. You continue the sweep, but find no people. Just signs. You're not alone. That much is clear, but whoever's here doesn't want to be seen. That's even worse. Anyone who hides this well wants you to be afraid. You make it back to camp by nightfall and report your findings. The others take it about as well as expected. One guy suggests building defences. Another says you should just leave the island altogether. Everyone ignores him. No one wants to admit there's nowhere to go. Here's your historical fact for the day. Many pirates ended up marooned. If you broke the rules, stole from the crew, or just annoyed the wrong person, they'd leave you on an island with a pistol, a bottle of water, and a sarcastic goodbye. Some islands had enough to survive on, others didn't. Survival stories vary. Most don't end well. Fringe fact: Alexander Selkirk, the real-life inspiration for Robinson Crusoe, was a privateer who asked to be left behind. Voluntarily. He thought the ship he was on was cursed and wanted off. He survived for 4 years on an island with goats and turtles, using a musket and his wits. When he was rescued, he barely remembered how to speak. Today's debate. Were uninhabited islands ever truly uninhabited? Some historians argue that so-called deserted islands often had small native populations, shipwreck survivors, escaped slaves or other marooned souls. The maps lied. Or the explorers just didn't look too hard. You look around your own patch of cursed paradise and think, yeah, that checks out. That night, the crew builds a crude palisade, more like a fence really, out of driftwood and sharpened sticks. It won't stop anything determined, but it makes people feel better. You help carry branches, even though your arms feel like jelly stuffed with nails. At one point you hear something moving in the jungle. Not wind, not an animal, something that steps. Everyone freezes, then silence. You sleep in shifts. 4 awake, 4 down. You're on second watch, sitting near the fire with a stick in one hand and a rock in the other. You're not sure what either will do if someone or something attacks. Maybe throw the rock and run. Scurvy sits beside you, whittling a point on a stick. "Think we'll get out of this?" he asks casually. "Define out," you reply. He chuckles. "Alive, I guess. Or at least not eaten." You pause. How likely is the eating part? He thinks for a long moment. 60-40. You don't ask which way the odds lean. The jungle feels even closer now, like the trees crept a few feet forward while no one was looking. The moon is high, but the canopy blocks most of it, leaving everything's in shadow. The fire flickers weakly. You swear you hear something breathing out there. You both sit in silence. Then, just as your shift ends, someone screams. It comes from the eastern edge of camp. Everyone's up in a heartbeat, grabbing sticks, stones, whatever looks pointy. You race toward the sound and find a man. One of the newer ones, barely more than a kid, collapsed on the ground, eyes wide, clawing at the air. He's babbling, words spilling out of him like water through a broken bucket. Eyes. In the trees. No face, he repeats, sobbing. No one sees anything. No one finds anything. Just the trees. Just the dark. You drag him back to camp and tie him to a post for his own safety. He keeps screaming until he passes out. No one sleeps after that. You lie awake again, hands gripping your stick like it's Excalibur. And as the fire dies down and the wind picks up, you hear it. Laughter from deep in the trees. Not a cackle, not mad, just quiet, human, and way too close. By morning Erton, the screaming has stopped. Not because the boy is better, but because his voice gave out sometime before dawn. He's still alive, barely. But now he just lies there twitching, wide-eyed, mumbling under his breath about eyes, teeth, and the shadow that walks. You don't know whether he saw anything real. Honestly, you don't care. Because whether it was a dream madness or a genuine jungle ghost, the damage is done. Every single person in camp looks worse than yesterday. Less human. More wild-eyed. Like the island is whispering things into their heads. You chew on a piece of roasted root for breakfast. It tastes like burnt socks. Scurvy says it's edible. You trust him about as far as you can throw him, but considering your arms are now more noodle than muscle, that's not saying much. Still you chew because there's nothing else to eat. The stream water gives you stomach cramps, but at least you're hydrated and miserable. You haven't pooped right in days. Scurvy calls another meeting under the crooked palm tree someone decided is now base camp HQ. There's a vote, not a formal one, just grunts and nods on what to do next. The options are limited. You either wait and hope for a passing ship, try to signal one, or start exploring deeper into the island. No one's coming for us, Scurvy says, hands on his hips. We're not the Navy. We're not merchants. We're pirates. If anyone sees this smoke, they'll assume it's trouble and keep sailing. He's not wrong, you certainly would. The group settles on option 3. Move, explore, find high ground, find food, find whatever is watching you, and ideally kill it with a stick. There are only 7 of you now. The boy who screamed is too broken to count, so 6 active bodies, 4 of them barely functioning, and 1 vague plan. You draw lots. You get assigned to the scouting party. Again. Lucky you. You, Scurvy, and another survivor named Briggs set off after midday. The sun is brutal, the heat a wet slap to the face, and the humidity makes your clothes stick to you like an aggressive octopus. Bugs follow your every step. The jungle here isn't like the pretty drawings on maps. It's alive, messy, loud. It stinks of rotting plants, mould, and the kind of mushrooms that probably have opinions about your presence. Briggs carries a club. He doesn't talk much, just walks ahead like he's trying to intimidate the trees. You stick close to Scurvy, who's more likely to notice a pit trap or snake before falling in. Or maybe he won't. At this point, it's all a gamble. You find animal tracks. Boar, probably. Scurvy marks the path with broken branches like he's done this before. You find fruit. Small, yellow, wrinkled. Scurvy tests one, waits a full 5 minutes, then gives you the nod. You eat 3 before realizing they taste like lemons dunked in vinegar. Still, you're grateful. It's the first thing that hasn't come with visible maggots in days. Historical fact time. Pirates often relied on fruit trees when stranded, or stopping at islands, not just for food but to fight off scurvy. Citrus, guavas, even coconuts, they were essential. Some ships would intentionally plant trees on secret islands for the future stops. A kind of pirate prepper strategy. Fringe fact, some pirates believed certain islands were sacred or cursed. They'd refuse to land if strange omens appeared. Weird animal behaviour, sudden fog, or birds circling without calling. One legend tells of an island where every pirate who landed went mad within 3 days. The symptoms? Screaming, teeth grinding, and trying to bite trees. You're now 2 days in, you're halfway there. Modern scholars still argue about whether those stories were real warnings or just post-mutiny excuses for why a crew lost its mind. Some say these tales helped keep order. Behave, or we'll leave you on the island of madness. Others think they were just the early version of horror movies, passed around to spice up boring nights at sea. But this island, this one might not be a story. Late in the day, you reach a ridge. From up here, the island spreads out below you. Dense jungle, scattered rock formations. And to the far south, something square. You squint. A building. You're sure of it. It's too sharp, too angular to be natural. Just one wall visible above the treetops, but unmistakably man-made. Maybe a fort. Maybe a ruin. Maybe a mirage brought on by hunger and heat stroke. But it's there. You mark the path and start the long trek back to camp. The sun is setting, casting gold and red across the treetops. For one fleeting moment, it's beautiful. The kind of sunset you'd write about in a letter home, if you weren't technically a fugitive wanted by 3 governments and currently sleeping under a tarp with a broken spoon. When you return, camp looks worse. The fire is nearly out. One of the crew, a guy you vaguely recall being named Dredge, is missing. Just gone. No blood, no note, no signs of struggle. You glance around. No one meets your eyes. Scurvy doesn't even ask what happened. You all just sit down and eat your lemon vinegar fruit in silence. That night, the boy starts screaming again. Not words, just sounds, guttural, hollow, the kind of noise that makes your spine sweat. Then you hear it again. Laughter. From the trees. Not loud and not hysterical, soft, almost polite. You sit up, hand on your stick, heart hammering. Someone across the fire whispers, "We should leave." Scurvy replies, "We already did." The jungle rustles, the fire sputters, and you realise something has moved past the fence, inside the camp. You don't move, nobody does. You're frozen in place and staring into the darkness beyond the sputtering firelight, trying to catch a glimpse of whatever just passed through. Not outside the fence, inside. The crude palisade you built was never much more than a symbolic effort, but now it's officially useless. You grip your stick like it's Excalibur, even though your hands are shaking so badly it might as well be a noodle. Beside you, Scurvy is slowly, silently rising to his feet, eyes scanning the shadows. His hand goes to the small hatchet at his belt, the last decent blade among you, and you watch him tense like a cat about to pounce. You hear it again, that soft laughter. It's not playful or loud, and it's the kind of chuckle you'd hear in a quiet tavern corner. Low, restrained, familiar. It doesn't fit here. That's what makes it worse. It shouldn't be here. It makes the jungle seem smarter than it should be, like it's been listening the whole time, waiting for just the right moment to let you know it's in on the joke. And the joke? It's you. A rustle behind you. You whip around, stick raised, teeth clenched, and find nothing. Just leaves swaying. But they are not moving in sync with the wind. The air is still. Your breath fogs slightly as it escapes your lips, and you realise you're sweating despite the sudden chill. Then someone shouts. You spin again and see Briggs swinging a flaming branch wildly near the stream, eyes wide, mouth twisted in panic. "I saw it!" he yells. "Something was there! Right there! White eyes! White!" Everyone's on their feet now, brandishing weapons that were never meant to be weapons. Rocks, sticks, a rusty fork someone's been using to dig pitiful holes for latrines. You're pressed shoulder to shoulder with the others, the fire now fully blazing, flames dancing tall as people toss on anything that burns. Branches, sailcloth, even a pair of boots. The light stretches into the trees, casting long, flickering shadows, but nothing moves. Nothing answers. Just that soft, polite laugh again, this time a little farther away. You wait. 10 minutes, then 20. Eventually the jungle goes quiet again, like it's had its fun for the night and has better things to do. The crew starts to relax, but not fully. No one sleeps. You sit in the dirt, back against the log wall, knees to your chest, stick resting in your lap. Scurvy stays beside you, eyes fixed on the trees. "I think we've overstayed our welcome," he mutters. You nod. "Tomorrow?" He nods back. "Tomorrow." Sleep comes in short, twitchy bursts. You dream of fog and teeth and a voice whispering your name in a language you don't speak. You wake up sweating, throat raw, eyes gritty. The fire's burned low. Someone snores softly nearby. The boy is gone again. This time there's a drag mark. You all pretend not to see it. By dawn you're moving. No vote, no plans, just grabbing whatever hasn't been eaten, broken or burned, and heading inland. You abandon the camp like it's cursed. Maybe it is. Honestly, that'd be on brand. You cut through the jungle in silence. The humidity returns fast, pressing down on you like wet wool. Every breath feels heavy. Bugs reappear. The fruit trees are fewer now, and the ground gets steeper as you head toward the ridge, toward the building you saw days ago. Your legs ache, your shirt clings, you miss the ocean breeze, as awful as it was. Out here everything's still, watching. You reach the ridge again by midday. The building's closer now, clearer. It's a stone structure, dark grey, partially overgrown, but unmistakably deliberate. A rectangle jutting from the greenery, like the jungle tried to swallow it and choked halfway through. You descend the far side of the hill, machete slicing vines, and come to a flat clearing. No laughter here, just wind and stone. The building is older than anything you've seen. Thick walls, no roof, just the frame of a doorway and remnants of carvings worn down by time. You touch one. It's rough, jagged, some kind of spiral pattern or maybe a sun or an eye. You're not sure. Inside, the temperature drops. The shade is immediate, and the stone feels cool under your fingers. The place is empty, not ransacked, not burned, just waiting. Like it was abandoned seconds before you arrived. There's a strange feeling in the air, like gravity works a little differently here. You step carefully. You find what looks like a small shrine, stacked stones, bits of old wood, and in the centre, a bowl filled with ash. Scurvy pokes it with a stick. Someone used this recently. Briggs checks the corners. It's shelter, he says. Good walls, no jungle. We're not staying, Scurvy says sharply. You agree, but something inside you whispers otherwise. This place feels safer than the trees, less alive. Here's your historical fact. Many islands in the Caribbean and South Pacific were home to ancient structures, some built by native populations long before pirates ever arrived. Stone fortresses, ceremonial grounds, tombs. Most pirates didn't understand what they found. They just used what they could and left the rest alone. Fringe fact, some pirate crews believed certain ruins were sacred and wouldn't step foot inside. Others raided them, only to suffer mysterious deaths. Disease, madness, disappearance. One crew reportedly vanished entirely after sleeping in a temple they found on an island near Cuba. Their ship was later found drifting with no one aboard. The debate? Some historians think these tales of cursed ruins were just sailor superstition, stories meant to scare others away from hidden resources. Others believe there's truth to the idea that pirates, often from different cultures, still recognise when something was beyond their understanding and left it alone. You're currently debating whether to sleep inside this ruin or outside in the bug buffet. You spend the night there. You light no fire. You speak little. You lie on cool stone, watching the moon rise through the open roof, trying to convince yourself that the whispers you hear are wind and not voices, that the scraping sound is a rat, not claws, that the cold chill on your neck is sweat, not breath. At some point you close your eyes, and when you wake up the stone bowl is gone. It's not just the bowl. That's the first thing you notice when you wake up. The sky overhead a dim slate grey, and the air thick with that unsettling hush that only comes before something terrible. You sit up slowly, the cold of the stone beneath your back still clinging to your skin like mildew, and realise the whole shrine is different. The stones have been rearranged, subtly but unmistakably. They're stacked higher now, forming a crude pillar where the bowl used to be. At the top, something new, a clump of hair tied around a jagged piece of bone. You stare at it for a full minute before deciding not to ask questions. Scurvy is awake too, crouched near the doorway, staring into the jungle like he's watching a stage where the curtains haven't risen yet. He sees you stirring and offers a shrug that says, "I didn't touch anything." You believe him. Briggs isn't awake. Briggs is gone. Again, no signs of struggle, no blood, just a single footprint leading out of the ruin and back toward the trees. Barefoot. Too long. Toes too spread. Not Briggs. You and Scurvy don't speak for a long while. Eventually, you both just stand and start packing your things, what little there is. Your pack holds a piece of fruit, a flask of stream water, and the crude knife you carved from a broken spoon. It's your most prized possession now. By the time the others wake, the sky is shifting from grey to yellow. Another hot day coming, another day to survive, another friend vanished. The remaining crew, 4 of you now, stand around the shrine saying nothing. One of them, a quiet man named Lark, mutters something about bad spirits. No one mocks at him. You're well past that stage. You move again, deeper into the island, following the narrow game trails through vines and ferns as thick as your thighs. The trees here grow closer together, blocking out the sun almost entirely. It feels like you've descended into a second world, one where time works differently and the air tastes older. You swear the plants themselves are watching you, leaves twitching when you pass, roots curling tighter as if offended by your presence. You stop to rest at a stream, and that's when you notice your hands. The skin is blotchy, red, with little blisters forming between your fingers. At first you think it's heat rash. Then Scurvy shows you his arms, same thing. Lark rolls up his sleeves, more of the same. It's not the plants, it's the water. You've been drinking poison. Well, not poison exactly, just bad water. Parasites maybe, some slow creeping illness burrowing into your system one gulp at a time. Your stomach cramps have been getting worse, and now your gums are bleeding again. It's not scurvy this time, it's something worse, something older. Historical fact. Sailors on long voyages often drank from whatever source they found, leading to all kinds of fun ailments. Dysentery, typhoid, liver flukes. Entire crews died from contaminated water before ever seeing land. The irony, some pirates actually carried barrels of rum not for celebration, but for hydration. Water went bad quickly, alcohol didn't. Fringe fact? Some pirate captains claimed to have tasted bad water, using a piece of silver. If the silver tarnished, they said, the water was cursed. Superstition, sure, but when you're hallucinating from fever in the middle of the sea, a tarnished spoon might feel like divine truth. Debate time. Did pirates really understand disease? Not in a scientific sense, but they did develop their own rules. No dead animals near the water, bury the sick far from camp, don't drink from stagnant pools. Some believe these customs saved more lives than early medicine. Others say it was all luck. You look down at your blistering hands and figure luck has officially left the building. By late afternoon, you stumble into a clearing and find something unexpected. A hut. Not a ruin, not a pile of rocks, a real structure. Wood frame, thatched roof, a little porch made of driftwood. Someone built this. You don't speak, you just approach slowly, weapons drawn. The door creaks open when Scurvy taps it with the flat of his blade. No one inside, just a single room. Dusty, musty, dark. Shelves line the walls, filled with jars, some sealed, others broken. Dried herbs hang from the rafters. A hammock droops from two beams in the corner, tattered and stained. In the centre of the hut is a table with maps. Old ones, faded ink. One is of the island, marked, labelled, circles, X's, names, and in the margins, notes written in a shaky looping hand. West Cave, shadows speak there. Offer taken, no return. Face in tree, do not follow. You sit down heavily, brain buzzing. Someone lived here. Someone who knew what was on this island. Someone who maybe didn't survive. Then from outside, laughter. Close, again too close. Scurvy bolts to the door, weapon raised. Nothing there, but the jungle has shifted again. You can feel it. The hut, once a safe find, now feels like a trap. Like whoever built it knew visitors would come, and that they left the warnings for people too stupid to listen. You pack the maps, you take the driest herbs you can find, and you leave. The sun is setting by the time you find a new place to camp. A rocky outcrop with a shallow cave, dry and breezy. You gather wood, start a fire, eat the fruit you've been hoarding even though it burns your throat now. Your stomach turns with every bite. That night you dream of the shrine again. But this time it's not abandoned. This time something is there. Not a person, not quite, just a shape, watching, and when you wake up the herbs are gone from your bag. No one in camp took them, you know that. Because Lark is missing too. By now there's no pretending this is bad luck. This isn't a run of unfortunate events or some naturally cruel twist of fate. You're being picked off, one by one, quietly, and no one's doing anything about it. Not even you. When you wake up and see Lark's place by the fire empty, no blanket, no pack, no snoring, you just sit there for a moment, staring at the spot like your brain's trying to reboot. Scurvy doesn't say anything. He just picks up a stick and starts poking the embers. That's how you start your mornings now, with a head count and disappointment. There are 3 of you left. You, Scurvy, and a wire man named Noel, who never really talked much before but has now become a prophet of doom. He mutters constantly, mostly to himself, and flinches every time the wind shifts. You think he's saying numbers, maybe counting down, or maybe up. You don't ask, there's no good answer. The jungle isn't even pretending to play fair anymore. The bugs have gotten worse, larger, bolder. You woke up last night to find a beetle the size of a biscuit nibbling your ear. Your blisters have become open sores. Your gums are bleeding again, and your vision goes fuzzy when you stand too fast. You try not to look at your arms too much because they've started to swell. You're either dying, hallucinating, or both. You decide to head back to the hut. The one with the maps, the dried herbs, the notes. Maybe there's something you missed. Some clue, some explanation, some hint of how to get out of this loop before you end up as a whisper in the trees like everyone else. You hike in Tritums. The trail seems different now, like the trees have rearranged themselves slightly to mess with your sense of direction. Scurvy mutters something about tree markers being gone. You don't question it, you just follow. When you reach the hut, it's intact, just as you left it. The hammock still sways slightly, even though there's no wind. You find the maps again, same circles, same X's. You look at one labelled Eastern Rise, marked with a sun symbol. Below it, safe at dawn. That's all it says. You show it to Scurvy. He squints, then nods slowly. Might be a bluff, but I'm out of ideas. You spend the rest of the day prepping. You pack dried leaves, any food you can find, mostly unripe berries, and the last of the stream water, now filtered through a bit of sailcloth. It probably won't help, but pretending to be careful makes you feel smarter. You sleep in shifts again. Noel refuses to sleep at all. He just sits with his back to the wall, muttering. You hear him say your name once. You pretend you didn't. Historical fact to chew on while you gnaw a root. The Royal Navy hated pirates not just for their crimes, but for their structure, or lack thereof. Pirate crews operated outside traditional hierarchy. Captains were elected, officers could be challenged, and even the lowest crew member got a vote. That scared the crown more than cannons. You can see why. Too much freedom leads to chaos. You've seen it firsthand. Fringe fact, some pirates believed that if you ate the heart of a fallen crewmate, you'd inherit their strength. A few fringe captains even encouraged it, though it was never officially part of the pirate code. You're not that desperate. Yet. The scholarly debate of the day, what broke pirate crews faster, outside forces or internal decay? Many say it was both. Isolation, hunger, fear, all of it combined to dissolve loyalty faster than a cannonball to the hull. You're watching it now. There's no captain here, no crew, just survivors turning on themselves in slow, quiet, spiralling collapse. The climb to the eastern rise takes all of the next day. You scramble over wet rocks, slip on moss-covered ledges, duck through vine tunnels that feel more like throats. Scurvy takes the lead, hacking through thickets with the last sharp blade. Noel trails behind, still muttering. You think he's crying, but you don't ask. By evening you reach the top. The sun is low, casting gold across the treetops, and for the first time in weeks or months, or however long you've been stranded, there's silence that doesn't feel evil. Just wind, just sky, just open space. It feels like breathing for the first time in days. There's a small stone platform here, almost like a lookout. You step onto it carefully, expecting it to collapse or whisper or eat your soul. But nothing happens. You just stand there, eyes scanning the horizon. Sea in all directions, distant birds. A trail of smoke far to the north. No ship, no rescue. But no laughter. That's something. You sleep at the rise that night, wrapped in your own smell and disappointment. Scurvy leans against a rock, eyes half closed. Noel curls up near the edge, still whispering. You dream of waves this time, endless slow waves, and someone walking across them toward you. You can't see their face, but their shadow stretches behind them all the way to the horizon. You wake up gasping, the sun is barely rising. And Noel is gone. No scream, no struggle, just two bare footprints in the dirt and his blanket folded neatly beside them. You don't even say anything this time. Just sit down on the rock, rub your eyes and sigh. There are two of you now, you and Scurvy, the final two. You tell yourself that's good, that two can survive, but you both know how this ends. And the worst part, you're not even sure it's the island doing it anymore. The silence between you and Scurvy stretches like an old rope, frayed, tired, and one sharp tug from snapping. Neither of you says it aloud, but it hangs in the air like fog. There's no one left to blame. No more, maybe they wandered off. No more, he's just scouting ahead. Noel folded his blanket. He walked away, willingly, just like the others, like the jungle whispered a deal in the dark, and he nodded. You watch the sun rise from the eastern rise, which is still, technically, a nice view. Gold spills across the jungle canopy. The ocean shimmers far beyond, and birds chatter overhead like they're mocking you in a language you're too stupid to understand. You chew a handful of sour berries and pretend they're breakfast. Scurvy chews on a piece of bark. He says it helps with the stomach cramps. You believe him. He could tell you it cures death and you'd nod. No ships on the horizon. Not even a gull. By noon the heat is back in full force. Your shirt clings to your back like old bandages, and the blisters on your sebums, on your hands, have turned into something worse. Sores, now cracked and seeping. Scurvy's not doing much better. His eyes are sunken, his skin pale and waxy, and he's gone quiet. Not Scurvy's usual quiet, strategic, calculating, but the kind that sits in your bones and whispers, maybe it's time to give up. You talk anyway, not because you expect a response, but because the silence has grown teeth. You think this place is cursed? You ask, trying to keep your voice light. Scurvy grunts. You nod. Me too. The rest of the day is spent trying to find shelter. You're too high up for water, too exposed for comfort, and neither of you wants to go back to the jungle. Still, there's no food here, no chance of rescue. Eventually, survival wins over superstition. You descend, slowly, quietly, as if you might wake the island itself. The trees welcome you back with open branches and endless buzzing. You're not even a person anymore, just a thing that sweats, limps and mutters. You think about Mutiny, about when this all began, the captain, the oranges, the laughter. It feels like another life, like a fever dream you had in a much cleaner shirt. Historical fact. Some pirates survived shipwrecks and marooning for months, even years. They built shelters, harvested coconuts, trapped small game, and carved messages into rocks, hoping someone, anyone, would find them. Some did, some didn't. The sea doesn't keep records. Fringe fact. A few pirate survivors claimed they were kept alive by mysterious strangers, natives, ghosts, or something else entirely. One story tells of a sailor who was fed fish every night by a figure he never saw. When he was rescued, he couldn't describe the face, only the eyes. White, always watching. Debate time, is it worse to die quickly at sea or slowly on land? Scholars argue over it. Drowning is terrifying but fast. Starvation, sickness, isolation. That takes time. Time to regret everything. Time to talk to yourself. You're beginning to understand why some men walked off into the jungle without looking back. It's not the fear that gets you, it's the waiting. You find another clearing that evening. Stone flats surrounded by palms with a single broken idol at the centre. A face cracked down the middle, eyes hollow, mouth open in what could be a scream or a yawn. You drop your pack beside it and sit, too tired to care if it's another warning. Scurvy slumps down nearby and lies flat on his back, arms spread wide like he's surrendering to the dirt. He stares at the sky without blinking. You don't ask what he's thinking. You don't want to know. You sleep without dreams. You wake without rest. And Scurvy is still there. Alive. It's almost disappointing. You both drink the last of the water. Neither of you mentions it. You already know the plan, or what passes for one. You ever think, you say as you walk deeper into the jungle, that maybe this is what we deserve? Scurvy shrugs. I stole from a church once. You blink. Seriously? He nods. Gold candlesticks. Didn't even melt them. Just used them as mugs. You laugh, not because it's funny, but because your brain is starting to misfire, and any noise that isn't the trees feels like a rebellion. You find the shrine again by accident. The one from days ago. The one with the rearranged stones. It's different again. The stones are now in a circle. In the centre, something small. A button. Rusted. Familiar. It belonged to Briggs. You don't touch it. Scurvy doesn't even look. You keep walking, you don't talk for the rest of the day. At some point you realise you've stopped thinking about rescue. You've stopped scanning the horizon. Stopped listening for sails, voices, or even birds. You've accepted it. You're not getting off this island. The only question is when and how. That night, the jungle sings again. Not music, not birdsong, voices, low, almost soothing. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, too far to understand, too close to ignore. You sit by the fire and clutch your knees. Scurvy watches the darkness, eyes wide, hatchet in hand. He's muttering again, not words, just sounds, repeating. Eventually you both fall asleep. You wake in the middle of the night. Scurvy's gone. No footprints this time, just his hatchet, and the soft sound of laughter from somewhere very near. You don't call out, you don't move. You just sit there, alone, at last. You sit by the dead fire until the sky starts to pale, not daring to move, not daring to breathe too loudly, as if the island itself is holding its breath with you, waiting to see what you'll do now that you're the last one left. The laughter has faded, but its echo lingers, not in your ears, but somewhere deeper, in the soft animal part of your brain that still remembers how to be afraid of things in the dark. Scurvy is gone, not off hunting gone, not scouting ahead gone. Just gone, like the others, like he never existed in the first place. The only evidence that he'd been there at all is his hatchet sitting in the dirt, its wooden handle dark with sweat and time. You pick it up, it's lighter than you expected. The metal edge is dull now, but still heavier than the rusted spoon knife you've been using. A gift, maybe, or an apology, or a dare. You don't bother calling his name, you know better. The island eats sound. Echoes die here. Nothing calls back but the wind, and sometimes not even that. You move slowly through the jungle, not because you're being stealthy, but because your legs are barely working. You're out of food, out of water. The sores on your arms are open now, your skin sunburned, bloated, and slick with sweat. You haven't urinated in a day and a half. You think that's a bad sign. You think about asking someone, then remember there's no one left to ask. The sun rises overhead, but it doesn't feel like day. The jungle is too dense now, too alive. The path you thought you'd been following is gone. Trees you've passed 10 times before now loom like strangers. You swear they've moved. You swear they're watching. You laugh once, just a single barked sound. It feels like cheating. You find a clearing by accident. Or maybe it finds you. It's circular, too perfect to be natural, with black stones set into the ground in a spiral pattern. In the centre, a wooden stake, old and splintered. Ropes dangle from it, frayed, broken. You sit on one of the stones and stare at the stake for a long time. You don't need to be told what it is, you know. It's where they used to leave people. Marooned, punished, forgotten. You try to imagine yourself tied there. You don't need to try hard. You're already halfway there, and no one even had to tie you up. Historical fact. Marooning wasn't always meant to kill. Sometimes it was just exile. A cruel reset button. Pirates would leave you with a pistol, a single shot, and the choice to use it however you pleased. You could starve, you could shoot yourself. Or, if you were lucky and clever, survive. A few even made it back. Fringe fact, some pirates claim that the worst maroonings weren't alone. There's an account, unverified of course, of a man marooned with his enemy. 2 pirates left to die together, given 1 pistol between them. They were found weeks later. One was dead, the other was smiling. You think about that as you sit in the spiral. No pistol here. Just a hatchet, dull as your senses. You run your fingers across the stone beneath you. It's warm from the sun, but it hums a little. You tell yourself it's nothing. Just your nerves, just dehydration, just madness. You lie back and close your eyes. Maybe you'll sleep. Maybe you won't wake up. But you do, because someone is standing over you. You don't open your eyes right away. You wait. The shadow is long, still. No breathing, no sound, just presence. You feel the hairs on your arms rise. You pretend you're dreaming. That's the best case scenario. If this is a dream, you can survive it. If it's not, you open your eyes. Nothing's there. But the spiral has changed. The stake is gone. The stones have moved. You're now at the centre. You sit up slowly, throat dry, heart hammering like a drum with a broken rhythm. There's a new smell in the air, sweet, almost floral, like the scent from a tropical blossom you can't quite identify, but it's wrong, off. Sweetness that coats your tongue and makes your teeth ache. The jungle hums, and in the trees, just beyond sight, something potent moves. You stand gripping the hatchet. You don't remember how long you've been on this island. Days, weeks. More, I melted away after the raid, after the mutiny, after the oranges. That feels like a lifetime ago. Now it's just this. This place, this hunger, this hallucination you now call a life. You start walking. No direction, just forward. Branches claw at your face, thorns slice your skin, you don't care. You find the shrine again. It's perfect now. The stones are upright, polished. The bowl is back, clean, full. You step closer. Inside the bowl, water. Clear, cold, you can see your reflection in it. Your face hollow and sharp, sunken eyes, cracked lips. But into the reflection, something stands behind you. You spin, I think. You look again, still there. You raise the hatchet, still there. It's not scurry, it's not any of them. It's tall, thin, face smooth and blank, except for the mouth. Too wide, smiling. Still not grinning, smiling. You drop the bowl, water splashes your feet, the reflection's gone. You run, not for safety. There is none. You run because it feels like something you still know how to do. You run until your legs give out, until your breath is knives, until you collapse under a tree that leans like it's listening. You lie there until the sun sets. And when the darkness comes, you don't get up. You hear laughter again. Closer now. You smile back, because you're not afraid anymore. You belong here. It takes you a while to realize you're still alive. You're not sure how long you've been lying there. Could be hours, could be days. Time doesn't work right here. The sun rises and falls like it's lost count of how many times it's supposed to, and your body feels like it belongs to someone else, someone stitched together with old rope and bruises. But you're breathing. You can hear it, slow and rasping like a bellows with a hole in it. That alone is enough to surprise you. Your hatchet is gone. Of course it is. You must have dropped it when you collapsed. You think about going back for it, retracing your steps through the jungle to the last place your limbs gave out, but the thought of moving makes your spine curl. You're not scared anymore, just done, like a ship after too many storms. Still afloat, but everything below deck is waterlogged and barely holding shape. You sit up eventually, because lying down feels too close to death. The jungle watches, as always, not with ire or end, but with presence. There's a sense now that you're not even a guest here. You're furniture, part of the scenery. Your sweat has soaked into the soil, your skin has burned into the sun, and your name, whatever it was, is long gone. You're not fish stick anymore. You're not even pirate. You're just a thing that still happens to be breathing. You walk. Because what else are you going to do? You've stopped pretending you're looking for rescue. You stopped that after Scurvy, after Knoll, after the shrine turned into something clean and sacred again, after the stake disappeared and the laughter didn't. You walk because motion keeps the fear at bay. You walk because if you stop, you'll start listening, and if you start listening, it'll talk back. The jungle's different now, calmer, as if you've passed a test no one explained. The vines part a little easier, the bugs buzz softer, the ground isn't trying to suck your boots off with every step. It's like you've been accepted, inducted. You're one of them now. That realization makes your skin crawl, but also, weirdly, it makes you proud. You reach the coast by sundown, a different part than where you came ashore. The beach here is narrow, with black sand and rocks jutting out of the surf like broken teeth. The ocean is calm, too calm. You squint into the horizon, eyes watering from the glare, and spot something there. A dot, a shape, a ship. You blink hard, is it real? You scramble forward, heart thumping for the first time in days, maybe weeks. You climb a rocky outcrop for a better view. And yes, there it is, a real ship, full sails, big, fast, cutting through the breakers with purpose. Not navy, not merchant, black hull, dark sails. You know that ship, your stomach drops. It's the same one that boarded the Wretched Mercy, the same one that burned it to splinters and walked through the wreckage like they were browsing a market. The one that took everything but your life. It's back, and it's coming for the island. You collapse into the sand and stare. You feel nothing. Not fear, not relief, just a kind of dull awe. You'd almost forgotten there was a world outside this island. That people still sailed. That there were ships and captains and choices, but they're not coming to rescue you. You know that. You feel it in your bones. They're coming for something else. You get up slowly, bones cracking like firewood, and begin walking along the shore. You don't know where you're going, you don't care. There's no plan anymore, just motion. Historical fact, some pirate crews were known to return to the scene of their crimes, sometimes to finish what they started, sometimes to scavenge, and sometimes to check for survivors. If they found any, the ending was rarely happy. Few men lived to tell that tale, fringe fact. In rare cases, survivors of pirate raids were recruited by their attackers. If you were strong, clever, and desperate enough, some captains saw value in broken things. That's how more than one pirate became a pirate. By surviving the worst day of their life and then getting handed a sword and a second chance. The debate, did pirates show mercy? Some say yes, stories of shared rum, rescued castaways, even accidental kindness. Others argue those were flukes, exceptions to the rule. Real pirates were pragmatic. Mercy wasn't charity, it was strategy. If keeping you alive made sense, they did it. If not, well, the sea's always hungry. As the ship draws closer, you see figures on the deck, moving, working, preparing. You sit on a rock and watch them. It doesn't matter if they see you. You're not hiding. What are they going to do? Kill you? You've already died, over and over in small ways. By nightfall, they've anchored offshore. A rowboat descends. You stay where you are. The boat lands. They disembark. There are 5 of them. Dark coats, covered faces. All business. One carries a lantern. Another has a musket. You recognise the leader by the way they move. Deliberate. Patient. As if nothing surprises them anymore. You've seen that walk before. They don't speak to you. They walk past. Into the jungle. Like they've been here before. You watch them vanish into the green and suddenly feel colder than the wind should allow. You follow. Slowly. Carefully. They're not afraid of the island. They belong to it. You realise something as you step past the tree line and the jungle swallows the last of the moonlight. Maybe this place wasn't cursed after all. Maybe it's a home. and you were just the one knocking on the wrong door. The jungle welcomes them. That's the first thing you notice, how the branches part for the 5 figures in black as if they've walked this path 100 times, not even a crackle of leaves beneath their boots. No rustling, no struggle, just silence, smooth as glass, as they slip into the green like ink into water. You follow, slower, stumbling after them with the clumsy movements of someone who's long since stopped pretending to be whole. Their lantern glows ahead, bobbing gently with each step, casting a pale halo on the trunks around it. You stay just close enough to track them, but not so close they know you're there. Or maybe they do. Maybe they're letting you follow. Part of the ritual, part of the show. You don't know anymore. You've stopped trusting your senses. Half the time your vision swims, your skin crawls for no reason, and shadows breathe like living things. After what feels like hours, but could be minutes, you reach it. The shrine. The one that kept changing, the one that kept reappearing in different forms. It's perfect now, no more stacked rocks or bowls filled with cryptic offerings. This time it's built, finished. A stone altar, smooth and polished, sits at the centre of the clearing. Vines have been trimmed back, the spiral of stone surrounding it is sharp, symmetrical, deliberate. Someone, or something, put real care into it. The figures take their places around the altar like actors hitting their marks. The one with the lantern sets it down at the centre, and the flame doesn't flicker. The light pulses once, then again. A rhythm, like a heartbeat. You watch from behind a tree holding your breath, afraid to even blink. They begin to chant. It's not a language you recognise. Not Latin, not Spanish, not the French prayers some pirates used when drunk enough to remember God. It's older, throatier. It sounds like wind scraping stone, like waves echoing in a cave. The kind of sound that makes your teeth itch and your spine curl without knowing why. The leader raises a hand and the others fall silent. Then he, or she, you're not sure, turns slowly, looks straight at you. You don't duck, you don't run, you step out. Because why not? You're not afraid anymore. Not really. What's left to lose? They don't move, don't speak. You walk into the circle, the stones crunch underfoot. You reach the altar and stand across from the lantern, hands shaking, mouth dry. The leader points to the altar, not a gesture. A command. You climb up onto it. The stone is cold, well, you lie down, you're not sure why. You just do. Maybe it's easier than fighting, maybe this is how it ends. The others begin to chant again. Historical fact, pirates were deeply superstitious, often carrying charms and totems they believed would protect them from storms or death. Some had rituals before battle, others before landing on certain islands. There are accounts of entire crews refusing to board a ship if it was renamed, a sign of bad luck. Fringe fact, a few pirate captains were rumoured to be involved in occult practices, voodoo, sea curses, blood rites. One such captain allegedly painted his sails with the blood of his enemies for protection. Whether true or not, his ship was never captured. It simply vanished one day. Debate. Was piracy just a profession or something darker? Some historians argue it was simply rebellion, a job for the desperate. Others believe certain crews embraced the chaos too fully, becoming something more than criminals. Cults, some say. Nomadic religions that worshipped not gold but freedom, and whatever lived in the deep. You lie still on the altar, eyes fixed on the dark sky above. The stars spin overhead, too fast. Your chest rises and falls. The chanting grows louder, becomes thunder in your ears. You expect a blade, a flash of pain, an ending. But nothing comes. Just sound. Just light. The lantern pulses again. And then, something else. A pressure. In the ground, in the air, in your chest. It feels like the island itself is exhaling, or waking. You sit up suddenly gasping. The figures are gone. The altar is gone. The spiral is gone. You're lying on dirt. Flat ground, empty clearing, no signs, no tracks. Just you. And silence. You scramble to your feet, look around wildly. Nothing. No lantern, no altar. Just the trees, too still, too close. You walk fast, then faster. You trip, fall, cut your arm. The blood is thin, pale. You wipe it on your shirt and keep going. You don't stop until you reach the beach again. Breathe, hitching, legs trembling. The ship is gone. Of course it is. The sand is smooth, no rowboat, no footprints. The tide is low. You scream, not words, just sound, ugly and raw. You punch the sand and you sob, then you stop and laugh. Because it's funny. You were almost free, and now the island has you, for good. You walk into the surf, water lapping at your ankles. You want to keep going, let the sea take you. But then you see it. something in the waves, floating. You wade forward, heart thudding. It's a bottle, stoppered, inside a scrap of paper. You grab it, twist it open with shaking hands and pull the paper out. Just one word. Soon. You drop the bottle, you walk back to shore, you sit in the sand and you wait. Because that's all there is now. Waiting, listening, and eventually, belonging. You wake up face down in the sand, mouthful of salt, sun already overhead, and a single fly determined to crawl inside your ear. You swat it away weakly. Your limbs feel like driftwood, bleached, cracked, barely attached. You're not even surprised anymore when you wake up somewhere new. The shoreline stretches to your left and right. Calm as ever. Too calm. The kind of calm that suggests nothing's ever going to happen again. And maybe that's the point. The bottle is still there beside you, half buried in the sand, glinting in the light like it wants a second chance at being mysterious. The note inside is gone. You'd swear you pulled it out yesterday, read the word soon, crumpled it in your hand, maybe even shouted at it. But now there's no sign of the paper. Just the bottle, empty and dry. You think about smashing it. Instead, that you tuck it under your arm. You've started hoarding little things, a half-burnt cork, a sharp rock, a piece of knotted rope from a raft that never existed. Trinkets of madness, mementos from a life that might not have happened. If you could remember your name, you'd probably carve it into a shell just to prove you were real. You walk the beach again, barefoot now. Your boots fell apart somewhere between the shrine and the nothing that followed. The sand is warm and grainy, the kind that sticks between your toes and never quite brushes off. You haven't seen another soul in 3 days? 3 weeks? The sun hasn't moved in hours. Maybe it's stuck. You talk to yourself now just to keep your throat working. You narrate your steps like a bored tour guide. And here we have yet another rock suspiciously shaped like a goat's butt. Lovely view. Refreshing air. Listen closely. You'll hear the quiet hum of insanity in the background. You laugh a lot these days. Too much, probably. You see the shrine again around midday, or what feels like midday. You didn't mean to find it. You were walking in the opposite direction, but here it is. Again. The stones are different, larger, more circular. Now arranged like teeth. The bowl is gone, replaced by something else. A mirror, small, cracked, embedded in the sand in the centre of the clearing. You stare at it. You don't want to see yourself. But of course you do. Your reflection looks worse than expected. Sunken cheeks, cracked lips, the eyes are too wide and rimmed in red. You look like something dragged out of a wreck 3 weeks too late. But what gets you is the expression. You're not afraid. You're smiling. Just a little. You don't remember doing that. You look over your shoulder. No one there. You look bambing. Now your reflection isn't smiling. You blink. Still not smiling. You frown. Still nothing. You reach down, pick up the mirror, and toss it into the trees. You don't need any more of that. Historical fact. Mirrors were a rare luxury on pirate ships. Most sailors never saw their own face unless it was reflected in still water. Some pirates reportedly feared their reflection, believing it could show them how they'd die. Others believed smashing a mirror at sea was the worst possible omen. It meant the ship would never return. Fringe fact, some ships carried speaking mirrors, rumoured to be possessed by spirits who warned captains of mutiny or betrayal. Probably just cracked glass and the whispers of rum-drunk crewmen. But one legend says a mirror once screamed during a storm, and 2 days later, every officer on the ship drowned. Today's debate, how much madness does it take to cross the line? At what point does survival become surrender? Did the pirates who vanished into jungles and refused rescue lose themselves? Or did they find something better, something raw and real that the civilized world couldn't offer? Scholars argue, you sit in the dirt peeling blisters off your feet and think maybe the line was never real in the first place. You spend the rest of the day wandering inland again, half looking for shelter, half hoping you'll vanish like the others, but nothing comes for you. No shadows, no footsteps, no soft laughter. You're beginning to wonder if you've already been claimed and no one told you. Maybe that's the real trick, slowly convincing you that you were never supposed to leave. That night, you climb a tree, not for safety, just for perspective. You perch among the branches, swaying gently in the breeze, watching the moon through gaps in the leaves. It's red tonight. You don't remember that being normal. But nothing's normal now. Below, you hear movement. Soft, measured. You hold your breath. A figure steps into the clearing. One of the 5, the ones from the ship, still masked, still silent. They approach the centre of the spiral, now empty, and kneel, hands pressed to the dirt. They stay there a long time, maybe praying, maybe listening. You grip the branch tighter, unsure if they can smell you. You're pretty sure you reek like fear, but maybe that's common here. Then the figure speaks. Just one word. Your name. You haven't heard it in so long it sounds foreign. Like something scraped off the bottom of a dream. You don't respond. You don't even breathe. The figure rises, turns, looks up. You blink. They're gone, or just gone. You stay in the tree all night. You do not sleep. At dawn, the spiral is gone too. You climb down and find a smooth, untouched clearing. No sign of footprints, just a single new item resting on a patch of moss. A compass. Its needle spins wildly for a moment, then stops. It points inland. You stare at it, then at the trees, then back at the sky. You don't want to follow it, but you will, because it's something. And something is a powerful thing when you've had nothing for far too long. The compass is cool in your hand, heavy, a little rusted, but real. You can feel its weight. Feel the way the metal sticks slightly to your blistered fingers. The needle quivers as if nervous, then steadies again, pointing deeper into the jungle. Not north. This thing gave up on cardinal directions a long time ago. It's pointing towards something else. And because you've got nothing left but sand in your teeth and madness in your skull, you decide to follow. You start walking without ceremony. No rousing speech, no plan, no hope. Just one foot in front of the other, because the compass says to, and you've learned to stop questioning anything that doesn't try to kill you outright. The trees part for you barely. The ground is soft, sometimes too soft, like you're walking on old sponge or something that used to breathe. You ignore that. Hours pass, or maybe minutes. The compass pulls you onward, not with force, but with the kind of suggestion that feels like destiny. The jungle changes the deeper you go, gets quieter. Not the good kind of quiet. This is the heavy kind, like the air is pressing against your ears, muting the world. The bugs stop buzzing. Even the wind disappears. It feels like holding your breath at the bottom of the sea. You come to a pool of water, black and still, surrounded by stundi. The compass points straight into it. You stand there for a while, staring down at your own reflection. Skin cracked, eyes hollow, face a stranger. There's something wrong with the way the image moves. When you blink, your reflection doesn't. When you tilt your head, it hesitates. Just a moment too long. You back away. The compass spins, then stops again. This time pointing right. You go, because you're afraid not to. The trees turn white as you move. Not painted, just pale. Bark stripped smooth like bone. It smells like dust and seawater, like old libraries and wet rope. A mix of memory and mildew. You try to focus, but your thoughts slide sideways in your skull. Words are starting to mean less. Shapes are starting to mean more. You start noticing patterns in the vines, faces in the moss. Not threatening, just watching. You find a clearing filled with statues. Stone figures, waist deep in the earth, all facing the same direction. Some are missing heads. Others have arms raised or mouths open like they're about to speak or scream. All of them are weathered, ancient and familiar. They look like sailors, like pirates. One of them is definitely Briggs. You recognise the crooked nose, the scar on his cheek. You don't know how it's possible, but it's him. Turned to stone, expression frozen in the exact moment he realised he'd made a mistake. You keep walking, because the compass says to. Historical fact, there were stories, rare but repeated, of sailors who claimed entire crews disappeared on islands. Ships would arrive, drop anchor, and send men ashore only to find no one. Just footprints in the sand, abandoned camps, half-carved names in trees. Some captains logged these disappearances, others burned the records. Fringe fact, in the early 1700s, there was talk of an island near Hispaniola that sailors avoided at all costs. They called it Whisper Cay. No maps showed it. No one could describe it. But the rumour went that once you heard the voice calling your name from the trees, it was already too late. One survivor reportedly came back mute. He drew pictures, mostly spirals. The debate. Were these places real, or just sailor myths? Psychological projections of guilt, sickness, fear, or actual locations wiped from maps? Buried by governments, or cursed by something older than charts? The line between history and hallucination gets thinner the longer you're stranded. You used to wonder where that line was. Now you know there isn't one. The compass leads you to another altar. Not the same as before, this one is made of driftwood and bones. Seagull wings tied to each corner. The centre has a hole about the size of a dinner plate filled with water. It's perfectly still and something moves beneath the surface, though you can't tell if it's fish or something else. You lean closer. A face stares back. Not yours. Its mouth moves, but you can't hear the words. You feel them, though, inside your chest. You are the last. You jerk back, breath catching. The compass slips from your fingers and clatters to the ground. The needle spins violently before cracking in half. You pick it up anyway. You walk again. You no longer know if the direction matters. Night comes, sudden and fast. Like someone switched off the sun. You don't bother with a fire. There's no warmth left in your limbs, and your stomach has stopped asking for food. Your mouth is dry, tongue thick, and your teeth feel loose. You sleep under a crooked tree with bark like wrinkled skin. You dream of voices. One voice, really. Yours. Begging yourself to wake up. But you already have. When morning comes, you find your name carved into a tree. Not by your hand, not by any hand, just there, spelled correctly, still fresh. You touch it, it bleeds. You don't even flinch. Because what's a name, really? What was your name? You've had so many since this all began. Fish stick, survivor, stranger, ghost. You walk until your legs stop. You collapse in a patch of clover so green it hurts your eyes, and you lie there. Not dying, just waiting, because something is coming. You can feel it in the roots. It begins with the ground breathing, not literally. There's no chest rising, no rib cage heaving beneath the soil, but that's what it feels like. A slow inhale, pulling the heat out of the air and the breath out of your lungs. The patch of clover you're lying on shivers gently, like it's caught in the rhythm of something massive and invisible just beneath the surface. You lie still, pressing your palm against the earth, feeling that subtle vibration run up your bones. It's not a tremor, it's a heartbeat, and it's not yours. You sit up slowly, knees creaking like old wood, and look around. The jungle has changed again. Or maybe it never stopped. Where once there was underbrush and vines and towering trees, now it's thinner, almost like a meadow. Long grass sways in a breeze you can't feel, and there are standing stones here arranged in rings. You count them. 7, each one taller than a man, each one carved with spirals, lines, and that same odd script you've started to recognize as familiar even if you'll never read it. The air hums. The sky above you is pale, brighter than it should be for dawn, too bright to be natural. You step into the circle. You don't mean to, you just do. There's a feeling here, one you can't name. Not peace, not exactly dread either. It's anticipation, the sense that something is on the edge of happening. You felt it before, moments before raids, just as the crew held their breath waiting for impact. That thick, suspended silence before the first cannonball. But here, the cannon never fires. Time stretches, then snaps. You hear footsteps behind you, slow, purposeful, one set. You don't turn around, you already know who it is. You've seen them in dreams, in the water, in the firelight when no one else was watching. They step up beside you, tall, thin, hooded in fabric the colour of shadow. No visible face, just suggestion. Their hands are bare, pale, long-fingered, with the texture of weathered driftwood. They hold nothing. They say nothing, but you know, you're not being hunted, you are being called. They extend a hand, not toward you, but toward the centre of the circle, where the ground has shifted, ever so slightly, into a shallow depression. A bowl, a basin, a quettle. You take the hint. You step in, the figure watches, you crouch, then sit, then lie down. It feels right, like going home. The sky shifts overhead. The brightness dims just a bit, like twilight remembered its job. You stare up, eyes wide, blinking slowly. You haven't blinked much lately, you haven't needed to. The figure kneels beside you, still silent, and places one hand lightly on your chest. Their touch is cold. Not sharp, not painful, just cold like a coin left on a windowsill. You don't flinch, you don't want to. This is it. You've finally found the middle of the spiral. Historical fact, some pirate survivors, rare ones, documented unusual rituals among the local populations they encountered. One such account described sleeping circles, places where those near death were laid out in the open for a night and, if they survived, claimed to hear voices. Most called them delusions, fever dreams, but the circles existed. Still do in some places. Fringe fact. A few journals, long dismissed as fabrications, speak of the deep guest, a spirit or force that would choose a single survivor from a lost crew and give them a final task. Sometimes it was to carry a message, Sometimes it was to become something else entirely. The chosen never returned the same. The scholarly debate, whether these accounts were metaphors for survival trauma or actual experiences with unknown rituals. Were the guests' psychological crutches, or were their traditions and beliefs lost to time and skepticism? Some argue pirates were just spinning yarns. Others think the ocean hides more than just shipwrecks. You lie still beneath the standing stones. The figure removes their hand. You expect something dramatic, a flash of light, a booming voice, a sudden gasp. Instead, you feel warmth. Not physical, not surface level. Deep warmth from within, like a piece of coal buried in your ribs, a tiny ember catching fire. It doesn't burn, it glows. Your limbs stop aching, your throat eases. Your skin, tight and blistered for weeks, suddenly feels loose again, like it belongs to you. You can breathe, deeply, for the first time in what feels like a year. The figure stands. You sit up. They gesture to the compass, which now sits at the edge of the ring, whole again. Needle still, pointing outward, back toward the coast. You rise, knees steady. The jungle parts for you. You don't look back, because there's nothing left behind you worth mourning. You walk for hours, maybe minutes. Hard to tell. The sun stays where it is. The shadows refuse to grow. Time gives up. When you reach the edge of the trees, the shore has changed. There's a dock. It wasn't there before. Small. Wooden. Stable. Tied to it is a skiff. Just one. No sail, no oars. Just a space. For you. You step onto the dock. It creaks gently, but doesn't protest. You climb into the boat. The moment you sit, the skiff begins to drift, guided by a current you cannot see. You do not steer, you do not speak, you just watch as the island slowly recedes behind you. Still, waiting. You feel no joy, no sorrow, only stillness. A voice your own, whispers in your mind. You were never meant to survive, only to remember. You close your eyes and begin to forget. The ocean cradles you like a mother who's not sure if she should be proud or disappointed. The skiff glides forward without sail, without oar, without effort. It doesn't bob or sway or creak. The water beneath you is unnaturally still, glass smooth and impossibly clear. You can see the ocean floor even though you're miles from land. Coral sprawls beneath like frozen diet, and strange fish, long, thin, shimmering things, glide below, watching you with ancient eyes. You're not hungry, you're not thirsty, your skin is still cracked and blistered, but it doesn't bother you now. You feel finished, like the last page of a book no one wanted to write. Behind you, the island is a smudge on the horizon, already fading. You don't turn to look at it. You know it's still watching, or maybe waiting for the next shipwreck, the next unlucky soul with a cutlass and a dream. It always finds more. That's the island's favourite trick. There's always someone else. The boat continues, past nothing, under a sky that refuses to change. The clouds are still, as if painted there. The sun holds in place, a coin nailed to a board. You don't sleep, don't blink much, just sit and drift and wonder where exactly it is you're going, if anywhere. Then you notice something on the horizon. Not land, not another ship. A shape, low, dark, angular. You squint. It's wooden. It takes longer than it should to recognise the thing for what it is. A vessel, long rotted, partially sunken. A shipwreck. Floating still and sideways. Half submerged, like it died mid-scream. The mast juts out like a broken arm. Sail shred. Hull split. It's not moving, but it hasn't fully sunk either. Just stuck in the moment it broke. You know this ship. Not just in the way someone recognises any broken boat. You know it. It's the Wretched Mercy. Your old ship. Your home before all this madness began. Your stomach drops, even though it shouldn't. There's nothing left in you to drop, still that. You feel that old twinge of memory, of time, of a life that involved other people, laughter, orange rinds, drunken mutinies, that life belonged to someone else now. But here it is, floating its pieces. The skiff doesn't change course. It drifts directly toward the wreck. You reach the edge of the splintered hull and the boat bumps gently against the wood, as if asking permission to stop. You rise, legs steady, and climb aboard. The deck creaks underfoot, familiar and wrong at the same time. Everything is as you remember it, except for the decay. The helm leans to one side, ropes stake across the floor, some still looped in perfect sailor's knots, others stiff with mould. The smell is salt and rot and old fire. You step carefully toward the captain's quarters. The door is gone, just open space. Inside, the cabin is empty, mostly. The desk is still there, papers glued to its surface by old water. A chair lies overturned in the corner. The logbook, what's left of it, sits near the centre, warped and unreadable. But someone is sitting at the desk. They are turned away from you, shoulders hunched, fingers tapping slowly against the damp wood. You freeze, not because you're afraid, but because you recognise the rhythm of the tapping. It's familiar, too familiar. The figure turns, and it's you. Not you now, raw and ruined and half gone, but you from before, from when you were just another mouth on the crew, spitting jokes and eyeing fruit. Your old self stares at you with confusion, as if you're the ghost here. You don't speak, neither do they. They blink once, then vanish. The room is empty again. You exhale for the first time in minutes. You turn and walk back out onto the deck. The sun hasn't moved. The skiff is still tied below, bobbing slightly now as if it too is thinking about leaving. But your eyes catch something odd. A long rope hanging from the tattered mast, swaying in the breeze that isn't there. It twists slowly. You step toward it, craning your neck up. There's something tied to the end. Not a sail, not a flag, a person. Upside down, swaying. No face, just shadow where features should be. You stare too long, and the rope snaps. The body falls, but never lands. It disappears mid-drop like a candle going out. You've seen enough. You climb down into the skiff and sit again. You half expect it to drift away immediately, but it waits, like it's asking if you're sure. You don't answer, you're not sure, you just stare forward. Eventually the boat moves again. Historical fact, ghost ships were a common fear among sailors. Not metaphorical ones, actual sightings of abandoned vessels adrift with sails intact, food still on the table, no crew in sight. Some were explained, most weren't. The Mary Celeste is the famous one, but stories go back centuries. Fringe fact, some believed a ghost ship could call survivors to it, especially if they once served aboard it. Seeing your old vessel long after its death was said to be a kind of omen, good or bad. That depended on what you saw inside. The debate, were these hallucinations, shared delusions born from thirst, fever and trauma? Or were the oceans just too big, too strange, too old for our rules to matter? Maybe some wrecks don't sink all the way. Maybe they wait. Maybe, like people, some ships just don't know how to die. The skiff glides on to... Your skin prickles, not from cold, but recognition. There's something ahead. The water is changing colour, darkening. The sun above starts to dim just a little, like someone placed a hand over it. The clouds finally move, swirling low and slow. You're entering a different part of the sea, not a place on any map. You grip the sides of the boat and lean forward. Not with fear, just readiness. You're not going back, you're not going home, you're going somewhere. And this time it might not even be worse. The sea turns black as ink, but the skiff keeps gliding like it's got somewhere to be. You can't see the bottom anymore. The water that was once glass clear now reflects nothing. Not the sky, not the boat, not even you. It's as if the surface is no longer liquid, but some thin sheet of void stretched over a depth that doesn't have a number. You lean over the side anyway, peer into it. You expect to see something staring back, a shadow, a whisper, maybe that face you saw in the basin, but there's only darkness, thick, endless, waiting. You sit back, hands on your knees. The skiff doesn't rock, it just moves. The air is cooler now, still salt wet, still familiar, but with a kind of heaviness to it, like you're beneath something large and heavy that hasn't fallen yet. You look up. The sky is no longer sky. It's a blanket of grey, tight and low, with a thin crack of light at the centre. Just a hairline split, like the world above forgot to seal itself completely. And then you hear the horn. Not a ship's horn, nothing so civilised. This is deeper, older, like a whale calling from beneath the world. It rolls across the water like thunder under your skin, vibrating through your ribs and teeth. You don't cover your ears, you don't move at all, you just close your eyes and let it pass through you. When you open them again, the boat has stopped. You're in the middle of a ring of stone pillars rising out of the water like broken spears. Each one is massive, carved with spirals, faces, symbols that pulse faintly with light. They don't look built, they look grown, fossilised, like someone long ago planted something here. And this is what came up. You step out of the boat, not onto a dock, not onto land, just onto the water. You expect to sink? You don't. Your bare feet rest on the surface like it's hard-packed earth, cool but solid. You walk carefully at first, testing every step, but the water holds. Or maybe something beneath it does, something patient. You move towards the centre of the circle. The light above pulses slightly, the crack in the sky widening just enough to let something bleed through. Amber and gold, not sunlight exactly, but memory. The pillars vibrate softly in rhythm with your footsteps. When you reach the middle, you stop and wait, because of course that's what comes next. You've always been waiting, haven't you? You close your eyes, and it all rushes back. The first storm, the mutinies, the flames on the water, the laughter in the trees, the shrine with its ever-changing face, Scurry's silence, Noel's muttering, Briggs disappearing without a sound, the hallucinations, the rituals, the way your name lost meaning, the voice that said you were never meant to survive, only to remember. And then something happens. You start sinking, slowly, gently, without panic. The surface gives way beneath your feet like warm wax, and you let it. There's no struggle, no flailing, just surrender. The water rises past your knees, then your waist, then your chest, and still you breathe. It fills your ears, your mouth, your eyes, and still you see, still you are, until there is no up or down, no surface or sky, no boat, no wreck, just you, floating, weightless, timeless. Historical fact. It's estimated that over 100,000 ships have been lost to the ocean throughout history. Storms, battles, icebergs, mutiny, many were never found. Their crews simply vanished. No trace, no explanation. Just stories passed between sailors and rewritten by the tide. Fringe fact, some old maps, not printed but drawn by hand and hidden in ship logs, mark places with symbols rather than names. A spiral, a cracked sun. A hand with too many fingers. These weren't warnings exactly, they were records, places where men went missing in ways that didn't make sense. The final debate, was it ever really about survival, or was it about surrender? There's a theory that pirates more than anyone lived close enough to death to hear it speak, and some listened. Not all vanished to fate. Some vanished because they chose to follow. You drift now in that place. The circle of pillars vanishes behind you. The water becomes sky, the sky becomes thought, and you feel yourself stretching, becoming more than bones, more than memory. You see a ship, far away, full sail, new crew. They laugh, they sing, they plot mutiny over a barrel of oranges. You smile, not because you miss it, but because you remember. And remembering is enough. For now.